Hello, and welcome to Emily Rand's animation seminar, where she will go into great detail on the fine intricacies of the new season of Arcane and probably flower language. Anyway, as we are now here for the show to begin.
There is flower language in it, hilariously.
I have not seen a single episode of the new season, but I just knew if there was flower language, you would have noticed it. So there you go. We've got that going for us. Yeah, anyway, we're actually talking about League of Legends. I know. It's crazy.
Shocker.
That's weird. It's like we do that every week, though there's usually really long tangents about various other things. So you wouldn't be surprised if we did just talk about Arcane animation for 20 minutes before the show actually started. But I think we kind of decided we're going to keep the roster stuff low on conversation. We'll get through like T1, and then we'll mostly just talk about the 1 million LPL English broadcast clips that I have. There's a lot. So
I can't wait.
T1.
Yeah.
Woo! Emily says she hasn't been on Twitter, so that means she probably hasn't seen my tweet.
I haven't.
But that's my entire comment on the situation. There you go.
I mean, I think for me, I was typing this in a Discord the other day, in Chronicler's Discord, actually, where a lot of my general apathy for the entire situation is just because I see this in traditional sports all the time. And I think because it is such a beloved team in T1 and specifically a beloved roster, I think that's the first and primary reason why like so many people are upset at something ending. I know Zeus's agency released, like the latest thing was Zeus's agency released a statement that was responding to stuff that was said in a Joe Marsh AMA, I believe. It does not seem like the conversations between parties are amicable right now. I don't, again, like I feel like just like when we were talking about the scout thing where stuff actually was not above board. And similarly, when we talked about the Jackie Love cousin thing where things were also not above board. I am not a lawyer, so there's always that disclaimer. But I think in this case, thus far, it just seems like there's increasing like I don't even want to say like bad blood, but like just a lot of like tension and hurt feelings between T1 and maybe not necessarily Zeus, but his agency for sure. And I think the big thing is like, especially having seen this again, just in traditional sports all the time, I mentioned, I think on previous episodes about the big thing that blew up with my hockey team this past summer, where there was like there's a lot of bad blood in that negotiation, and that was all above board. But like the agent involved is like a super super hard-nosed agent to the point where I believe one of his other clients who was on the Toronto Maple Leafs, the client himself, the player, had to step in and be like, this is what I actually want. I don't think that's a situation here either. I think, it doesn't thus far, and again, like all the stuff hasn't come out in terms of like the time frame, I think is the specific thing. But it doesn't really seem like there was anything super illegal going on. It just seems like general shadiness that accompanies negotiations sometimes. Again, that's not to say that like people can't be upset about it, especially the parties involved. I think in addition to the fact that
people, it's not that people can't be upset. There you go. Continue.
Yeah. But I also think like for Zeus specifically, he had already talked about how he looked at other options last year. So I think going into negotiations this year, he was probably going to be the most difficult signing. I also think like again, T1 probably, if I had to bet, had a lot of brand and like monetization stuff already started with the ZOFGK lineup going, like basically running it back, right? Like they'd probably already started producing merchandise. They'd probably already started doing negotiating a bunch of brand deals and stuff like that, kind of under the assumption that they would be able to negotiate and meet Zeus's offer. So that is another reason why like you will likely see a lot of hurt feelings, because like that's likely a lot of money lost, right?
Yep.
Doran in all of this is like the most hilarious piece to me, mainly because he's just like rocking up and being like, yeah, okay, I'm here. Like, I'm here to play. Doran, I know, had a really rough Worlds, like a really, really rough Worlds. I certainly don't think
had
he's
a few rough Worlds.
Yeah. I don't think he's as bad. I'll say this. I don't think he's as bad as his worst performances. Certainly not consistently, because if you remember, he was actually the one who would be able to best Zeus for whatever reason, despite the fact that I think Zeus is a stronger player across the board.
What you're saying is HLE will never be able to beat T1.
There you go. I mean, Doran just has Zeus's number,
We've
guys.
Guaranteed it.
I don't know why that is, but it is a fact. So yeah, I mean, it shakes things up a bit. It's not like there's not a lot for me, I guess, to comment on the negotiations outside of like I can see why fans are upset. I can see why T1 is upset. Agents in general do this kind of stuff all the time, so it's like not really shocking to me, but
yeah,
it's the first like public, I guess, kind of non-amicable negotiation we've seen in a while, outside of Jackie Love, I guess, and then like the whole scout thing.
When the statute of limitations is up and like all related players are retired, I'm going to release all of the fucked up shit that happened in the pre-2022 League of Legends off-season. And then people will finally understand why I see something like this, and I'm just like,
No, I mean that's kind of that's kind of my attitude too.
I'm kind of just desensitized. Like this seems very normal to me. Like it's just normal. Like sports off-season kind of drama. Like it's just, you know, a player was exploring other options and didn't let his backup option know right away, or an agency is doing scumbaggy agent things.
Yeah.
Okay. Like basic scumbaggy agent things that are not even not in his client's best interest necessarily.
Yeah.
So like it's fine. Brand deal went wrong, but like, okay, you can do so many more fun things with the D in your acronym. I'm just saying, I've seen some great ones. I'm sure you guys have too. None of them that marketable, but you know.
I was gonna say, where are we going with this?
None of them that marketable. But you know, I think it'll be entertainment to come in the future. Anyway, will they win Worlds with this roster? Thoughts?
I mean, they could. Like, again, I think Doran is better than his worst days, even though he is not.
Even though he has his worst days at Worlds. Generally.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue, right? That you need to get over is like he has. I was gonna say the Tien problem, where outside of that one, outside of his MVP Worlds Finals performance,
at least he
has really struggled. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, that is always the interesting thing about this T1 lineup, and they're retaining 4 of 5. So I think the big thing is like how much Zeus did give them, because basically the T1 lineup, they kind of took turns having issues, right? Like as individuals, like one part of the season, Cario would be really struggling, and then Owner would step up, and then when Owner wasn't performing as well, then Zeus stepped up when he previously had not been looking good. So like I think the big thing is like how cohesive are they going to be as a unit, and then are they going to be able to rely on Doran to do the same thing if they are kind of struggling, like if individuals are struggling and they need like one person to really, really step up. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to think about the standard that T1 is at now, because when you get used to like doing things at a certain level, you are no longer happy that you did the thing at that level, So Faker's entire League of Legends year is just gonna be anxiety that he won't win Worlds, and he'll just receive relief at the end. Not even joy, just relief. That's the existence that we're at right now. That's where we are.
It's sad. I mean, professional it's a weird place to be in. Yeah, I think professional athletes say this all the time, right? Where it's like the first championship is like insane, and then after that, if you win another one, it's just like, oh God, thank God we didn't lose, right? Like it's less of a oh my gosh, we won, and a thank fuck we didn't lose. And it's a position that few get to be in, but I also do think it can be just very anxiety-inducing.
That's why you can also kind of relate to Zeus' decision to leave, because it's like, oh, if I stay on T1, this is the bar, but if I go to another team and manage to win, then that's like impressive because I did it myself, right? It wasn't Faker. And I got to achieve this other thing by winning Worlds on like 2 different teams, 2 different rosters. So I think that's also a reason why you can see why teams wouldn't want to stick together too. And then the other, even outside of getting paid a lot of money, yes, I know that's going to be the immediate responses, but they actually left because of the money. I know, I get that. You can do both things. It's true. Especially if like he actively chose to explore other options. Because
I think also... No, go.
I was just going to say, because a lot of times you do have to reach out to even get these opportunities, even at his level, right? So,
yeah. I think it sounds like T1 probably could have matched the monetary offer. I also do think, though, to your point, there's so many positives about playing for T1, right? Like you are the most popular team. You're going to have a massive fan base behind you. You're going to, I mean, theoretically have a chance at winning Worlds every year, especially with this lineup, right? Like, Zeus has already won Worlds with this lineup. But the big thing is, the flip side is that there is also just so much pressure that comes from being on that lineup. So like a lot of the positives can also be negatives depending on who you are, and especially to your point, if you've already won. So we'll see. It'll make the HLE T1 matches like
spicier.
I mean, the shake up in this case is super, super interesting. And the LCK has actually been the most active region, which is really atypical of off seasons generally, which has been kind of interesting to watch for me.
They might be the highest paying region now, like demonstrably.
Yeah.
Because LCS was for a while, LPL was for a while. A banger. Yeah, I mean, people are talking about some other roster stuff. We'll probably talk in more detail about rosters as they exist and our thoughts on them, but we do want to get to what we actually want to do on this episode, which, you know, maybe people don't enjoy as much as we do, but, you know, it's our show.
LPL English deserves it.
It's our show.
Also,
so we do stupid
also I feel like the people who actually do watch us will appreciate it. Our very small but knowledgeable in who we are as people fan base.
Yeah. But yeah, briefly, you said you wanted to talk about TL and FlyQuest running it back. Good for them.
Oh yeah, they're running it back. I just thought it was worth a mention because it's kind of what we expected when we talked about the whole JoJo thing previously. Because this is why it made sense for JoJo to leave NA, right? Because we already talked about him with C9, and then Fly and TL are retaining their lineups, which I think is really cool and also something that we rarely see happen, especially in NA. It's been happening a little bit more frequently, I guess, as salaries are dropping down a bit, but it is really nice to see with these two teams specifically, because I thought they really, really pushed each other all year. They really learned from each other all year, and it made both teams better. And I look forward to hopefully seeing that in our inaugural LTA North conference season.
North, yeah.
League of the Americas.
Yeah, I think my main thought on it isn't so much salaries normalizing as fewer and fewer teams wanting to pay buyouts. Because like a lot of these rosters came together this year or the previous year, right? So most of the players are still under contract. They won't get bought out because people don't want to pay buyouts anymore. So makes sense. Like they might want to do a change up for this player or this player, but they probably also feel like a lot of the good players are under contract. JoJo is an option that maybe they could have explored, but again, we just won and we took Genji to 5 games. I think I will say a lot of times successful teams are too averse to changing rosters sometimes because there's a lot of economic research on the complacency of teams that have won recently, which is again why T1 is so special. And then there's also been a lot of research done on like the value of selling your second best player every offseason. But again, if the buyout market is shit, then we'll get this situation. So will be interesting. I think I'm most surprised about the lack of changes to TL, but I also think it's good. So we're chilling. And I wanted to celebrate the quote-unquote rumor that was basically confirmed by Srtty anyway, because he just quote tweeted the Sheep Esports tweet. Srtty to Dignitas! Woo! He's in the LTA! He's not in the LCS. He'll never be in the LCS. He's in the LTA! True. So I'm excited about that because I gotta be happy for my boy. I I hope Shaden makes it eventually, but he's chilling in collegiate. And he's getting a shit ton of stream viewers, so good for him.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
know he was like a not big streamer, but like
Yeah, no, he gets like 400 to 1K usually. Pretty chill.
Oh wow.
He does pretty well.
Good for him.
He was doing well before we even signed him, like pretty decently. Just streaming jungle games at rank 1 some days, etc. So he's always had like a pretty good stream following, and he's been streaming pretty consistently too. So it's chill.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and then I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, did you want to talk about the Yuuji thing or no? Do you even know what that is? I don't even know how public it is. I know more details about it, but let's put it this way. Yuuji dropped his agent like halfway through off season. Maryville Yuuji, and he did tweet about this. He did tweet that he's looking for a new agent. Because there was some inconsistency. Yeah, because there was some misinformation on whether or not he would qualify as an LTA resident.
I didn't know about the agent part of it.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, for me, the TLDR of that is that it's like I'm sad.
Yeah,
because that indicates that he would have probably gotten an LTA offer.
As he should have, honestly.
And that there was misinformation on whether or not he was a resident, and it caused him to not get an LTA offer. And that his agency was responsible for not understanding the situation, which again, a lot of problems with off seasons happen because of agency incompetence. So it is what it is. I'm not saying, of course, that there shouldn't be agents, because I think players should get representation of some kind. Otherwise, they'll get completely screwed. Like most of the contract templates are designed to screw them over. But yeah, I just wanted to at least acknowledge that a little bit. Feel bad for the boy. I think he earned the opportunity for sure.
Because he should absolutely have an LTA offer.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the perfect transition to talk about LPL English being dead, because now everyone's sad. Oh God, I'm a terrible person. Yeah. So I think we're a good couple of people to talk about this, because we know the history of LPL English probably better than most people. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't qualify.
You are the history of.
I feel like I shouldn't qualify that with probably. I think we do know it better than most people. So yeah, it's had a lot of ups and downs. I think the first iteration of LPL English, more or less, like I guess official iteration, was 2013 summer. And so I think the way we do this is we just like kind of go through the history of the league with some clips. I actually probably should have tested this to make sure that the audio works, because we set it up so that you could see.
Being scuffed is our brand.
But it needs to be important that everyone can hear the audio, so this might be very fun. I'll edit this in post, it's fine. The history of LPL English, the very first, I guess, quote-unquote broadcast was actually pre-recorded casts where I believe Papa, Smithy, and PastryTime would cast it live and record it and then release it as a YouTube video later. So it wasn't live broadcasted, but the videos would come out like the next day or something. So it's interesting, but that was like kind of the first iteration of LPL English. And I picked this one less for some clips I picked for the casters and the casting itself, and some of the clips I picked for the content of the VOD. And I think if we just look at the content of this one, so we'll play the clip. You can hear it, right?
Moving into the jungle, able to really punish Lee Sin at level 3.
For one of the little things there, PastryTime, even if there wasn't a level discrepancy, having a Doran's Blade against a machete just gives you so many more combat stats. And as discussed, the ghouls tank, minion aggro, monster aggro in the jungle for Yorick. So full health with a Doran's Blade, even against that Lee Sin, who of course, well known for his early game skirmishing. Yorick's going to come up ahead.
And LPLen actually aggressively counter jungling here, just kind of moving through the jungle, taking away Jing's buffs, or small camps at this point. The buffs are pretty much gone. And Jing now going to come up towards him. He's level 2. Big Pablo could be in a lot of trouble. Force flash out there from Sonos. Evan Flo's going to come through. The exhaust used in there as well. Now Sam can be in trouble. Good flash throw from Twitch. Doesn't quite reach the wall, but he was well enough away there after flashing out from that one.
Sounds exactly
a nice
the
gank there from Jing. He's still level 2 with that red buff, and LPLen actually hanging out now towards the top lane as K9's down the bottom, activates Counter Strike. Maybe looking to go in though. There's a good bubble there coming through. LPLen now going to go into Sticky here, as that could be a Bane in trouble. Flash forward there from Yorick, trying to pick it up. Now Jing's coming back into the mix, and so much damage coming out. The level 2 Lee Sin doing quite a lot of work here. OMG, a lot of pressure here up towards the top lane, but no one miraculously is going to die from.
No, like I chose this one because it's like, first of all, you have Yorick counter jungling at level 2.
Yep.
You have him flash ganking as Yorick at level 3. That's the best part, for sure. But it's like that.
Oh my god.
That like this was the year that when you went to Worlds, people started posting the like pictures of Summoner's Rift missing towers, and you know, this is what LPL is like. But I think OMG was a big part of that. I also wanted to pour one out for Jing, the jungler who never got to make it because he impregnated a girl and quit the game. But he was a really
did not know that.
He was a really good jungler.
Did not know that.
Already incentive for Durex to sponsor the league back in 2013.
Yeah. They needed like tower plates didn't exist, but we needed the Durex sponsorship.
But yeah, we have a lot of them. So that was like the Papa Smithy PastryTime era and what happened there. So after that, little known fact, do you know who the very first LPL co-streamer was, Emily Rand?
I don't.
You don't know who the very first LPL co-streamer was?
No.
I don't know if I'd be very surprised if anyone in chat knows who the very first LPL co-streamer is. But we're gonna have some education here. So this was the 20.
Oh my god, Mickey! Oh god.
So this was the 2014 era of LPLen, and there was a lot of background and conversation as to like the product itself, and it was like very Wild West because there was no like you were casting CBLoL unofficially at this time.
No, I got shut down.
Yeah, but I'm saying like at this time as well, around this time or slightly after this time actually.
Yeah, just after.
But because there was no like public Riot regulation on like who could co-stream, what could be co-streamed, like permissions. So there was this young person. I don't know exactly how old he was, but he was just like a Polish fan of the league, and his name was NeroIntegrate. So we have to play the video to give some background here.
For nothing in the kills, and they will get that inhibitor turret, and most probably the inhibitor Khan. Even though he was in such a bad position,
this
in a
is
1v3,
also a very interesting era of LPL because
wow,
this WE team had scouted Mickey as a jungler because he played Lee Sin mid before it was cool and before it became like meta.
Yep.
And I'm saying this because you will recognize some names on this roster. And it is very funny that it just, you know, we have Mickey, who was initially scouted by WE as a jungler. We have Khan, who is coming off of earlier this year being a part of one of the larger upsets in Champions, from when he was on Prime Optimus.
Yeah.
And the kind of this weird evolution of lane swaps at the time. So I'm just giving context on this WE roster because it's just very funny how these players ended up on WE.
Oh no, and it's like you've got the Rengar, you've got all sorts of fun. This is like when Lucian's released. So the clip I showed is actually from LPL Summer 2014, which was the LPLen era. But it's important that you know who NeroIntegrate is, because he was legit the way a lot of people watched LPL English in 2014 spring, when there wasn't like anything resembling an official English broadcast. Because he would just get like his chips or something and sit there and talk over LPL VODs. And he so two companies at the same time, and companies, I use the term loosely, esports publications, Esports Heaven, or actually it was Gosu Gamers first, and Games in Asia was the other one. So Games in Asia saw this NeroIntegrate feller co-streaming and decided, hey, we'll do a thing. And Gosu Gamers, which aka me and Drexen, saw this NeroIntegrate feller streaming and said, this is the most scuff shit I've ever seen. We can do better, you know? So both started kind of...
LPL deserves better.
Kind of, which I feel bad about, because NeroIntegrate was just like a fan who was having fun, you know? So I wanted to give him an acknowledgement and a shout out. So, but what ended up happening with all of that is that Gosu Gamers and Games in Asia agreed to coexist. And half of the days would be broadcasted in 2014 summer on Twitch, with the official permission of Tencent. By half the days would be broadcasted by the Games in Asia team, and half of the games would be broadcasted by the Gosu Gamers team, and it was called LPLen, which the Twitch still exists. I moderated it, produced it, like both days, because Games in Asia didn't do any production or anything. And I would write these page-long documents with notes on all the players' backgrounds, like where they're from, like all the Chinese memes about them, everything like this, every day, on top of having a full-time finance job. It was very fun. And then that was just how it rolled. And we would stream off of the Chinese broadcast at first. So you can find all of these VODs still on LPL, on the Chinese League of Legends broadcasting channel. And we're just gonna go down memory lane now that I've introduced NeroIntegrate, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun. All right.
I will say, I know I said this on Hotline League again when I kind of like appeared to talk about LPL English on there. But like, and I said this in my tweet thread at the announcement. I think the big thing, because LPL, again, did not have a company like OGN doing their broadcasting and recognizing that they wanted to expand beyond their own home market. And like part of this is just because the Chinese market, the Chinese domestic market, is massive already. And the South Korean market is not nearly as large, right? So I think OGN being savvy enough from their experience broadcasting other esports, most specifically StarCraft, but already recognized the value of having their own English language broadcast, right? So that was something that was kind of part of South Korean League of Legends from the get-go, where it was not the same expectation coming out of the Chinese side for Chinese League of Legends. So the thing I want to stress is like, I'm glad you brought up NeroIntegrate. I'm glad you brought up all the work you did specifically and like these teams, because these were people who were just doing it because they were fans, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that's kind of carried over even now into 2024 when I'm prepping for Worlds, right? I've watched all of the LPL games, but I'm going to a bunch of fan translators and I'm being like, what are the memes? Like, where are the shoulder content and like how much of it has been translated? And I think one thing that has happened with LPL specifically reaching an English language audience is like the insane amount of passion coming from the people who are broadcasting it and trying to spread like not just like what is happening in the game and like the analysis, but like so much of these are who these people are. Like these are who these players are. These are their relationships with each other. These are funny memes that they did. Here's Clear Love and Imp cleaning a fish together. Why did this happen? We don't really know, but it's funny. That kind of thing. So yeah.
I think, and then so that's kind of I specifically left out the person who casted with NeroIntegrate because he's a sus person. We're not going to talk. He's like the one person I'm intentionally leaving out. My bad. But so, I mean, you can find the VODs and figure out who he is if you're really curious. But I did want to shout out Nero because he's a solid dude. He was a solid dude. I don't know. Maybe he's a crazy person now. Who can say? But he was a solid dude. The Gosu Gamers team, though, was like kind of the team I ran, and I sort of ran it as like, if you were passionate about the LPL, I'd give you a shot to cast, right? And we had like a core team, which was 4 casters, and I will introduce kind of the people that most people will remember in a sec, but I wanted to say that like the one caster who I've been around or who I am familiar with and kind of ever worked with, who I felt like really should have made it and just never did, was this guy called TastyNubbinz. And he casted with Nick Yako. Yeah. And he casted with Hughbo Shim, who is also quite a character. And these were, again, like, I went to dinner with Raz and Hughbo like a couple of years ago, I think. But they're, again, very solid guys. So I have a little clip from this game.
This right now. These are the actions that made OMG the premier, team last split. They're, they have the dragon timer. They clearly know. I mean, they know that their opponents relatively know, but not exactly when the dragons are going to come out. We might see a red buff steal, and this might be a kill onto Kid. This is interesting. 2 teleports coming in as well.
Death Sentence comes in, Paranoia as well, and looks like Kid's actually going to come out. Tidal Wave lands, and Drug's going to get turned up and on.
This is the Soraka
but Wild goes to secure safety. Kid picks up Drug, and now Sand's trying to get some kills from the backside, but Youngsu takes down Going, and Cool comes in as well, picks up the kill on the Kid. Youngsu not going to get enough, but nice
Illusion.
And from the backside, Cloud's going to flash, but he might go down here. Kitty's the targeted question, and Sun picks up another kill. Illusion the targeted question. Now they're trading it up and away. Who's going to get the kill? Sun goes down to Illusion. Can he make up a kill? Yes, he will, so that's one over to Cool as well. And does a nice job juking, but Tatai with the auto attack picks up the kill. So that's going to be 4 down.
And his weird
IG.
Nocturne
Cloud
builds,
from the backside Tatai.
Like, he would build, like, Glass Cannon Nocturne when everyone else was building it tankier.
You got it.
And
I just think,
Zatai, I miss you.
Really good on Cloud, avoiding the team fight. That fight would have gone much more differently if Illusion didn't have a really clutch flash.
Old Soraka Q is great. One of the worst experiences in solo queue I've ever had that still sticks in my mind from old Soraka Q.
Because Cool would have killed Cloud had he landed that distortion. So Cool.
Yeah, so again, like, I don't know, Nick Yaka, this was probably not the best clip of him, but you could definitely hear just like the radio sportscaster voice. Like, it had a very unique vibe, like when he play-by-play casted the fight. It's spectacular, but yeah. And then the Soraka build, the Illusion Jarvan, the Illusion Nocturne. Wow, I'm brain dead. But just like there's so much good, like just how prevalent Twitch was in 2014 is crazy too. Like a lot of good times. Before we get to the next caster pair that I think people are kind of expecting us to talk about, let's just like bonus clip.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Demacia Cup English coverage, of course, on Twitch TV, brought to you by Games in Asia and Esports Heaven. And you're seeing some casters with bags on their heads. Well, at least one of them. That is something you warned me about, huh, Soldra?
Thank God, I needed this back in my life. You know, when I come to the LSP, I come for the bag-headed casters and the hot grills that we see on the casting desk and in the interview lounge. You know, so I'm
the bag, the Hughbo line of all time: the bag-headed casters and the hot krills. Yep. Anyway, but yeah, we
love Hughbo. Like, I hope he's living his best life, honestly.
Yeah, I mean the thing about LPLen is we broadcasted so much of stuff that wasn't just LPL, because we also broadcasted the TGA qualifier for LSPL. We also, for whatever reason, we broadcasted Demacia Cup. So at the time, Demacia Cup kind of ran alongside LPL. So there would be like Monday, Tuesday there would be like 4 LPL days in the week. And then in the middle, there would be a Demacia Cup day. So we would also broadcast the Demacia Cup. It's just that there would be like 2 BO2 series or something. So the days would be way shorter too. So it was something where I could immediately come home from work at like 6 p.m., sleep for, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours, and then get up and run the show and then go to work, right? It was like a more human schedule. Whereas if you tried to do that now, it would be almost impossible with like a job outside of esports. I remember though, when we did the LPL promotion tournament, that was the most crazy shit. And we'll kind of, I was
gonna say, I hope you have clips from that, because that was your casting debut, I'm pretty sure.
Well, my
but
casting debut was actually OMG LGD with the person that NeroIntegrate casted with. Because no one would fill for that day. And then I casted with TastyNubbinz for the LSPL promotion, or for the promotion tournament. And then halfway through, he had to go for work. So he didn't fall asleep. Like, he got called into work in the middle of the night. And so I was just left alone. Like, hi, how's it going, guys?
But I also remember there was one time where like Hughbo fell asleep when he was supposed to cast.
Oh, maybe.
And then you ended up filling in, and I think Raz might have ended up filling in.
Yeah, I don't have those ones, but there's like,
I want to say that was a qualifier though. That was like an LPL qualifier from LSPL.
But yeah, it was fun. I think before we get into those ones though, I have one clip from that like tournament, but there's at least one thing I want to talk about, which is Froskurinn and PiraTechnics, which were kind of the casting pair that were, I guess, like sort of the ones that people will remember or know from this era the most. Let me see. I need to pull up the actual video. So this one, you'll notice the quality is much improved. First of all,
better stream. You, another player that I missed that I felt like was attacked by the community.
All right. So, yeah, I miss you as well. Sorry. He now coaches LNG. Sorry. He took over for BSYY when he got the boots. Good times.
Cora 1 too, man.
Yeah, so Cora 1 playing Maokai. You have Clearleft's signature Evelyn.
You have Dada77 on his signature Navi.
Oh my god. And then, of course, Alistair top lane. Alistair top lane ruined OMG that year. Well, a lot of things ruined OMG that year. We will not talk about that. That's a whole other thing. 2014 LPL was some shit. I feel like that is like peak League of Legends drama. That entire year is just like the best, most like people need to go back and make a retroactive documentary on all the stupid shit that happened in 2014 LPL because it's probably the best year of League drama ever.
Yeah, I mean, it kicks off with the EDG WE separation, and then, the OMG internal drama is just insane.
Spectacular, yep. And of course, the noodles, the beef noodles.
Yep, beef noodle.
The classic journalist, like, leaking later. The problem with Name is he fucked too many girls.
Was this also or was that 2015? Was 2015 the Sanshao, if you wish to climb, you must remain abstinent, or was it 2014?
But it was inspired by Name.
Okay, so it was 2015.
But it was that it was inspired by this. So yeah. It's the classic. Anyway, enough of that. Froskurinn and PiraTechnics. I'll show like the start of this after because it's also funny, but it's like just to see the outfits. But this was the grand final.
Outfits.
This was the grand final, so it was like our highest production value because they flew us out to San Francisco. This was Garby, who worked for Twitch at the time, and he said, "Okay, like take 2 casters. You guys can fly out to San Francisco. We'll broadcast from the Twitch studio." And I got to be like an actual producer for a night, which was fun. And then they got to cast in person, and they wore like their cute little suits or whatever, which I'll show in a second. But for now, we'll just do the show the casting clip.
Kind of picked out. They didn't get what they wanted to in that bot lane in particular.
Well, OMG is one of the few teams that you can tell that methodically they're going in with a play style and a plan and trying to implement it. Again,
the
top jungle
is that I sometimes still think of Lucian as like, Lucian's a newer champ. Lucian's not a newer champ. I was like, wow, Lucian was out at this point.
It's a very powerful poking lane tool.
No, this was because this was also the Demacia Cup where they released him on live.
Complete rework, yeah.
And there was like no cooldown on his G.
Played 11 times since the
in Demacia Cup,
patch,
UCI got like
3 of those games.
Had like a
very
25 kill game or
despite
something.
The fact that
crazy.
He's continued to be a top pick in the LPL. A bit curious of a statistic nonetheless. Up in the top lane, Going and Koro are going to just trade a little bit more damage. These guys will be at it for days. I think we've seen some like really crazy 1v1 duels that last all game. We saw like one with World Elite where Xiaomei kind of just like followed the other top laner around, and like wherever they were just beating on each other. It's kind of the same thing. Going, that cow holds a grudge, man.
Cool with the one.
He also pulled the Catalyst.
Yeah, he did get that up.
I'm sure if that's going to be a Roa or...
I think that's kind of hard to say, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens because they keep duking it out right now, and actually nearly getting a little bit of action from Drug. And by the way, Drug, he hasn't actually provided a whole lot of pressure.
Yeah, we're not even touching on like the very little known like a Loveling name change drama where like he named himself after his girlfriend and then changed it to Drug, and then changed it back when they got back together. Anyway,
you could see him going through his like relationship troubles via when he changed his name at Y.
Oh my god, yeah, it was such a good time. But yeah, outfits. The cutest little outfits, no? Like the 2-piece.
Yeah, I remember these.
Yeah, adorable, actually.
Fantastic. He's a monster top laner. He'll go toe-to-toe with anyone if you give him the chance. And honestly, the only way people have been able to shut him down
like little
isn't like a 3v1.
It's awesome, actually.
There's a lot of target advance actually going into
the thing you paused it on, they
this is a region that prioritizes carry diving that back line. And so when you have a top laner that is as
also Pyro straighten your tie.
Spectacular, no? And then the vest kind of like ballooning out for Frosk, or like not like in an awkward angle. It's just great. It's spectacular. Outfits that fit. Wardrobe stat. Sorry, we didn't have that. My bad. Yeah, so it's just fun because, like, obviously people might remember Frosk. PiraTechnics has casted recently. So yeah, it's good. But now let's return to the Scuffed angle very briefly. We'll get back to Scuffed for a sec. Speaking of Scuffed, Emily's cam. Okay, here we go. We got it back.
I didn't do anything except sit here.
Yeah, it's because if I tab out, it gets mad. All right. Okay, this is a little bit spectacular. Like, this is... I don't expect you to know any of the players here. But just hear who's casting and tell me if you recognize them, okay? Also, this particular moment... I'm not trying to make the people casting look bad, by the way, in this one. I'm not trying to make them look bad. I'm trying to make myself look bad because you'll see how scuffed this is in a sec. You'll see how scuffed this is.
But honestly, he should probably just
Alright, mid lane Shockwave actually lands onto Zender. He's going to try and ult onto Orianna, try and shadow out, but the slow does land. That's probably going to be first blood. Needs one more auto attack or a snowball, and that's first blood over to Nunu.
Yeah, that was interesting. Getting caught up as a Zed right now. That's one gank he's not going to be escaping, and with his flash down too. Jeez. All right, so it's not a good start going on for Team Emmy here, but hey, they still have the lanes working out for them in the sense that, like, bottom lane's going and top lane is still strong, but it looks like the Nunu's putting down the camera.
Oh my god, avoidless!
Yeah. It's something. But yeah, as you can see, the production was spectacular. It was like almost a minute delay. Action in from the casting.
Yeah, I was like, wait.
But yeah, here's your test. Who are the casters? One is easy. But
yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely Raz.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the other one?
I will be very surprised if you guess, because I didn't even realize she casted. I didn't even remember she casted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get it. Who is it?
Where I was literally just whoever, you know, because this was the promotion tournament.
I recognize Raz.
It's Rheingold River
immediately.
Rheingold River casted.
Oh my gosh!
This game for me.
River,
it's
no
amazing.
way.
I was like, she casted? I didn't even remember she did, but she did, because I was just like going through all the VODs trying to find all the casters. And it's like, oh my god, she casted this for us. But yeah, there is actually
amazing.
A lot of casters that we had at the promotion, so I'm not going to show all of them. We had Skill Factory. We had a guy called Bliss from Oceania. Some of them were particularly good, some of them were particularly bad. I also had PastryTime on for some of the promotion tournament, which was good. He ran it back.
I'm gonna call out who River is just for people who don't know. River is literally responsible for all of Leaguepedia before it got taken over by fandom, right? So like she is one of those people who is so intelligent and so dedicated, and sometimes you just wonder how these people end up in esports, because I'm just like, you could use these skills to do so much.
Oh yeah, no, she knows how to code everything.
She is so insanely good, and she cared so deeply about making sure that these things were recorded, and a lot of like early esports stuff, like I'm talking starting in like season 1, 2, would not be known or remembered if it weren't for the fact that River started this database, right? And also stuck with it through like being taken over by, I think initially like Liquidpedia, and then she started or like it went from Gamepedia to Leaguepedia. There was like some drama with it, but basically you just followed wherever River went because you knew that she was so dedicated in terms of keeping track of League of Legends history. And like, I think as a whole, we've done a pretty poor job I'll say generally, Riot has done a pretty poor job of like keeping track or like canonizing League history, and part of the reason why a lot of these things are even look upable at all now is because of River's dedications. Like, she's amazing.
Yeah, I think River is like one of those people that just not many people know her name, but League of Legends esports as a culture would not be what it is without her, for sure.
Yeah.
And I met her several occasions. I remember the year I was nominated for Journalist of the Year was 2017, and that was the year that she won the award for Unsung Hero at the Esports Awards. And I remember she didn't know anyone, so she was just kind of like walking around with me the whole time. And then she went to the bathroom right before they called her award, and then everyone at the award ceremony, like the ushers and like the people handlers, like all panicked and ran to my table and were like, "Where is she? Where'd she go? We need her." It's like, she has no idea she won, does she? She has no idea. But it's so obvious that she won. So, yeah, no, she was great. She's also one of the only people in the scene who's shorter than you and me, so...
True. I remember when I met her in person, I was like, holy crap, because usually I don't notice height because everyone is at like a default taller than me height. Mm-hmm. And especially a lot of the guy casters are actually like really tall. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, you are tiny.
Yeah. Yeah, if only she had made it in casting, then you need an Apple box.
That would have been amazing. Yeah.
Like a cart. I mean,
yeah, she's just like a tiny person.
And like the other thing is, she was always down to help. Like, if you needed help coding a spreadsheet to automate something for you, she would do it for you. Like, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
she just was awesome, and I haven't talked to her in ages, so I should probably look her up.
Yeah, I hope she's doing well.
Anyway. That's what I have for 2014, because we've been going for an hour and we've only gotten through 2014.
I never would have guessed River casted, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, 2014 was fun. I don't want to be like super negative, because this is the part that I'm bitter about, which is that we got permission from Tencent to monetize and to have an observer account, so we used observer for the regionals. I was the worst observer you've ever seen in the history of mankind. And like all of that stuff is on the Chinese LOL broadcasting channel YouTube if you're really bored. But after that, Riot said, because we broke, like, we were starting to break 10K concurrence consistently. And Riot was like, we want this now. So Riot took like basically changed a lot of the ruling, and this is where Emily also comes into the story, because she was going to start like a CBLoLen sort of style thing. But Riot, specifically because of the LPLen and some of the like short-term success, decided to come in and say, hey, like, this is the situation. We are changing it so that the region that is responsible for the default language gets to decide the broadcasting rights. So any English broadcast is decided by Riot NA, right? Like the permission to broadcast is given by Riot NA for any English broadcast. So they came in and they shut down a lot of things that were starting up. I think there was also, like, Flowers was also involved with like an LMS style thing.
Yeah.
Like a GPL LMS one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that is because there was then an official like sanctioned broadcast of it that happened pretty quickly afterwards. I know Flowers had been casting VODs on his channel, and that was like one of the ways he was discovered is a lot of them ended up on Reddit, and people were like, oh my god, wait, this guy is like insane. Yeah. But for me, I was already I started following Chinese League of Legends a lot more closely in 2014. Part of that was because LPLen gave me access to it. Part of that was because I had followed, and we've brought this up on show so many times, but you still think of me as an LCK person first. And the reason for this is because I followed LCK like religiously, or OGN champions rather. And when we both wrote for the same websites in Paravine and GG Chronicle, I was covering exclusively OGN champions and then some NA stuff. And this is when a lot of South Korean players, this is before the big exodus in the 2014-15 offseason, but it was when players had started trickling over to the LPL. So I was like, well, I want to watch like Insec, for example, right? Like, and I now have a way of watching Chinese League of Legends in English that's a lot more easily accessible. And at the time also, I got randomly assigned to write an article for GG Chronicle. We did like this massive preview thing. And anyway, I ended up writing about Kaboom. I ended up accidentally predicting their one game upset by basically just saying, based on playstyle, they will upset Alliance the most. And I put the probability at like 5% or something. And after that, I was like, oh, okay, well, CBLoL is getting its own, like, basically they were I had been talking to a lot of the players in CBLoL, and they were like, yeah, we're getting our own like LCS next year, so like you should pay attention to it. And me and a friend of mine were like, okay, well, we'll just do what the LPLen did, but for CBLoL, because players were so accessible, and so many of them already spoke English that it was actually insanely easy to do. Like, there was never a CBLoL player that I reached out to that didn't want to help or didn't want to try to spread the word of CBLoL. And they also had a lot of third-party tournaments as well, which was very similar to China at the time. Or one of the only other regions that was doing like third-party tournaments. And so I'd started casting a few of those with a friend, and then we started the first day of CBLoL, did not even get, I think, 10 minutes into the cast, and they shut us down immediately. And the reason was because, hi Stunt, and thank you. Well, the reason was because of all of the LPLen debacle that had happened previously and the rule that you had just mentioned. And initially we thought it was a joke. We were like, oh, haha, very funny. And they were like, no, you can't stream.
You have to stop. Yeah.
And we were like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Oh.
So like, yeah, people were really upset about it at the time. I am also like you, still a bit bitter about it. I think it is hilarious. In retrospect, now that, because like if you think about a lot of the things that they said at the time, where they're like, we really want this broadcast to be super professional, we want to bring it in-house and like you know, give the best viewing experience, etc., etc., etc. And you think about the announcement the other day where they're giving it to co-streamers with a clean feed. It's like, we are essentially returning to the time before LPLen.
To the Wild West. Yeah, we're returning. That's why I wanted to bring up NeroIntegrate, because bro pioneered LPL co-streaming, basically, as like a Polish kid living in his apartment. And, you know, we have to remember our forefathers. NeroIntegrate for life. Let's go. Anyway, during that like small bitterness rant, we had a Stunt raid, so thank you, Stunt. Welcome, Stunt viewers. We're doing an LPL English retrospective stream. we're on 20.
And everyone leaves.
We're going from 2014 to 2015, so it's a long ride. But I do remember the announcement that kind of came out about it. And I also remember Richard Lewis's article behind the scenes, and there was some very weird things in the article. One thing that they came out and they said that like they were interested in PiraTechnics. You remember this?
Yeah.
Because Richard Lewis leaked the fact that Riot was taking over LPLen. And they had one thing that was about PiraTechnics, which was that like they were interested in PiraTechnics. The other thing was that they thought that Froskurinn was too emotional to be the first like woman caster. And I was like, that's a thing. That's kind of fucked up, for sure. It's like definitely the most fucked up thing. So that was gonna be my last thing. The other thing is just they said that I would never cast and they had no use for me, which is fine. You know, it's chill. It is what it is. But yeah, the fucked up thing was definitely the Frosk thing that was leaked. I was like, yeah. And that's why, like, at the time I was like very annoyed that she kind of bent over backwards to help the broadcast. Like now I'm like chill with those guys. Like they did a good job. They were very solid casters for a very long time. But I will say, like, as a more positive segue, it was brought over to OS, the Oceanic studio. So the OPL casters also were able to cast LPL. And they had to cast like 2 leagues at once, which again, because the leagues were smaller at the time, that was more manageable. But they had a good casting team. They brought back Papa, Smithy, and PastryTime, and they added a couple others. And the line they used at the time was that the Australian accent is the most pleasant, is my favorite, or whatever. I remember Waylon Rizal saying that. It's like, okay, chill, vibes. So let's hear some Australian accent, guys. And you'll definitely
so funny.
Recognize some of these because they all did an excellent job. And again, the video quality has gone up, so we'll appreciate that one. And I lost Emily's cam because production value.
Fine. No one needs to see me. I think the other thing, again, I know Jake Spawn tweeted about this the other day, but like another thing that I would love to reiterate about this casting team as well is it basically continued the tradition of really passionate people. Oh my god, I already see Aluka on my screen.
Aluka,
really passionate people.
I did not get his Scion, but in some ways that's better, you know.
Yeah, you should have gotten his Hecarim. Don't you remember when he'd just like gallop around team fights and do nothing?
But he was like the Scion god, and he would legit like curve that shit. Like if you know the Scion Speedway, he would win it every time. I swear to God.
Yeah, he was Smurf at Scion Speedway. The big thing with the OS team as well is that they were also like insanely passionate about the league, right? And so I think that tradition was continued. Oh my god, these rosters: Aluka, Spirit, Ninja, Skies.
There's like a lot of, also technically the only time since like early days that TSM has won an international event was because of this WE roster.
This WE team.
Well, not exactly this one because they brought back but they had bombed to like last place because there were 12 teams at the time, and they had bombed to 12th place and had qualified with the other roster, the Weishao roster from 2014, to go to the IM. And then they changed the roster primarily because Sia and Mystic were like within the top 3 of the Chinese ladder, and so they made it. They upset, was it like Huya? Who were they at the time?
GE, I think they were GE Tigers at the time.
Tigers, yeah. So who are like the Rocks Tigers, also known as, like they've had many names. But they upset them, and then they completely bombed and got destroyed by TSM final.
Yep.
It's like the 12th place team.
It started the TSM hype train for Worlds.
Like a pug team with Spirit, Shia, and Mystic based on this roster. It was fun. That was a fun time. Yeah, but you got to meme that like the 12th place LPL team beat the fucking Rocks. Anyway, I'm gonna play the clip.
Probably fish them and get a kill.
Yeah.
I love the term of fishing them as a verb.
That's what happens. He throws the fish at them.
It's beautiful. Don't worry, I'm not questioning. We've got a void staff being picked up as well from Rookie, so they can build as much magic resist as they want. They're still going to be prey for this fisherman.
Just so you know, it's like fishception, all right? He throws a fish at them, and another fish comes out of the ground to attack them.
He is a fish.
Got the mini-map?
Yeah, it works on so many levels here. As Rookie will steal away a blue buff there.
So
Mass
weird.
Objective being taken. Yeah, and again, they're just going to be strangling out the vision from World Elite. You can see the red wards, they're no longer in the...
If you recognize who's talking right now, you recognize who's talking. It's actually two play-by-play casters.
Yep.
And they're talking about fish. And they're not play-by-play casting. But this was the very first week 1, day 1. They didn't have a color cast on the broadcast. They had PastryTime and Atlus.
And Atlus, yep.
Who are both very known names now. And I was just like watching this and they're talking about fishception. All right,
I feel like it's something. This is something that Atlus has absolutely carried to his play-by-play in in the LCK as well.
Yeah, it was spectacular. I think like that was a good time. It was just we had the double play-by-play cast to debut, the in-studio sort of Oceanic cast with Pastry coming back from 2013, and he'd also done the promotion for LPLen. So he was basically like the only caster at this point who had done all 3 years of the league, which is insane. And then you had Atlus, who at the time was new, he was like pretty new. And now he's just kind of a legend. So there's that. There was obviously like quite a few more casters during this era. So I have quite a few clips. This was like a core team that hung on for a while. before being purged by Riot, as inevitably happens with every... No, I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
So this is another couple of casters here.
Before you take the contested objective of this Baron, and now EDG are alive. They're going to look to contest this one again.
I hear death.
Grouped as
They're going
Koro goes in. He finds Godby from the side. Baron has been secured,
Oh,
but it's
God.
Dragon 5 against
Godby.
not ClearLove. Knocks out of the fight.
TBQ.
Koro goes down. TBQ's in the back on the pawn this time. PYL follows him up. It's a bouncy castle. Great disengage, but it's not enough. Def is the last one left alive. This is the ace for EDG. No, ClearLove's still up, but they're rushing forward. It's game number 3. LGD are up 2-0. They could advance to the finals. The surrender vote. EDG have lost to LGD.
Okay, so yeah, I picked this one for like a narrative reason as well, and we'll keep it playing so you can see the casters out there, or hear them talk.
Words cannot express how incredible LGD is playing right now.
Just look at
You
their
could
faces.
still surrender at this point
That
in
says
time.
it all.
There's
They
the
just-
smile.
A team that was finished rank 1 through the regular season, barely lost a game. They have a track record that is positive against LGD of 19-5 before this best of 5 series. Well, LGD had something to say about that.
Yeah, now it's 19-8.
All right. So first of all, pop quiz. Who are the casters?
It's what, Dom and
do you remember,
Rusty?
Do you remember Dom's casting name at the time? I actually didn't remember what it was.
No, I just remember him as Dom. What was it?
Seda?
Huh.
Yeah, it was Seda at the time.
Did not know. I totally forgot about that.
But
That he
yeah.
was called that.
And the other one
I recognized Rusty immediately.
No, Dom.
Right? That was Rusty?
Yeah, that was Rusty for sure. Yeah, it was Rusty and Dom. Rusty was also, at the time, I remember talking to Spawn and said that Rusty, like, because Rusty at the time was an ex-pro player, right? Like, which is crazy.
Yep.
It's like, and then this was like his casting debut year. And in my head, he's still like one of the best casters that was associated with the product. And he was a staple of it for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like he did a great job. Dom was a very funny one. I think like hysterics for a while had the reputation, and we'll get to hysterics. Had the reputation of putting his foot in his mouth, and Dom was like the original one there.
Yeah.
But he had come over from an LCS stint, I believe, or he went to an LCS stint and came back at one point.
I think he did Academy. I don't remember him on regular LCS broadcasts. Maybe he was.
He did do the LCS, but that's at the time he wasn't like motivated, and that was the main reason he didn't stay for very long. But yeah, he obviously was definitely a memorable face for the LPL broadcast. And then we'll get to
people do not need to see me. This LGD team, I know they're like known for they basically them combined with the EDG performance and the IG performance, which I think the IG performance should not be like
that's why
sometimes
okay. I know why.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's sometimes frustrating when people talk about 2015
not that one. Yeah,
LPL.
This one we should talk about the context of that for sure. But the one that I'm about to show, I know why I picked. But anyway, we'll show that one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say IG qualified through the regional qualifier on some wonky shit, and anyone I'm pretty sure I am still on the record for having said they will either lose all of their group stage games or they will win all of their group stage games somehow. Like, I have no confidence in this team whatsoever. The LGD collapse, though, was like the most surprising thing. Yeah. Because like so EDG, you could see there was like some behind the scenes stuff that happened. And then there was also a meta shift and some stuff with their top laners. So I think like the reason why every team collapsed was very different. And I definitely hate the fact that IG is included because no one who watched that IG team qualified had any confidence in that team whatsoever. But the LGD team did so well domestically and they absolutely shit the bed at Worlds. And it was really, really sad. Like really, really, really sad to me anyway, because like that was the one that was like inexplicable, like what happened to you guys between
it's very
domestic performance and now. Yeah.
Anyway, that the reason why I picked that one was because that was like such an insane moment for me as an LPL coverage person, because I said like LGD has this insane amount of like potential, right? They for sure can do well, and like they just swept EDG, which at the time this was also the season where there was the Oscars series, which was
Oscar night.
The Oscar night, which was IG and LGD both trying to lose a series without making it obvious because they wanted to be like 6th instead of 7th. This one was in spring.
They wanted to avoid EDG because EDG was that good.
They wanted to avoid the EDG side of the bracket, and that was like the entire reasoning behind the Oscar night. Like EDG were that insane, and they were just completely like, I think they were undefeated in summer. Like Rusty and Dom had the call out there. So that's like why I picked that one, is because it was just an insane moment in general. This one I also picked for kind of a nostalgia reason.
Yeah, and what this means is it gives...
But it's also an introduction to, I think it's two things. It's two debuts in one, which I didn't realize, but it's two debuts in one. One of them... All right, let's go.
Yep, let me wisely going to concede this turret.
Yeah, and what this means is it gives Gamgee this time around
my goodness.
a little bit of time to be able to set up some vision around this dragon. It is up in about 40 seconds. So maybe we'll be able to control that objective this time around, as they're just pushing in on this turret.
Yeah, Syncdream finally hitting level 6 here at 18 minutes into the game. Does have that big bear that he can throw down.
Gosh,
They're going to take
I
you in a
remember
turret
this.
and then just get the heck out by the looks of things.
Yeah, looking to rotate back towards that dragon.
We've got the flank coming through from Amazing J, but he may be
God,
too deep. You can
Syncdream.
see the Sonic Wave land. Stain
What
picks
happened
up
to
the
him?
kill,
And
but the
Tail.
fight's on for real in the backside as Letme's come in. Gets caught by the Aqua Prism, but Drizzle, he gets taken down as well. This Jarvan sort of filing in after Amazing J, and Energy Pacemaker just have no idea how far behind they are.
Yeah,
I
they went
watched this
extremely
with you partially over Skype, or at least I was talking to you during this game.
Mm-hmm. Because this was the Xiaohu debut, LPL.
Yep.
This was Xiaohu's first LPL game. He debuted for Gamty, and unfortunately the English broadcast didn't have the Panda hoodie. I'm very upset about this. So, because I watched the Chinese broadcast for this game, and it had the Xiaohu Panda hoodie. Like, the Panda hoodie Gamty uniform is kind of the most amazing thing that exists.
It is a piece of LPL merch that I would love to have, more than anything.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's so good.
It's probably impossible to acquire at this point, but it is amazing. I also think it was Spawn's first LPL cast. I couldn't find his, I don't know if he wasn't able to make the earlier ones or what, but that was the first one I could find was Spawn. I could be wrong on
That's
that.
so funny because I remember him as an absolute staple of
he was for many, many years, and there was there was the internal competition between him and Frosk Oz, who would be the face of the LPL for quite a while in the English community. I remember her sort of venting to me about it, but I also know they both put a lot of work in. And there's sides on both of that, and they both absolutely love the product. So and they were both very good at their jobs. So yeah, it was definitely a time. I also remember that it's definitely I don't know. Obviously Spawn now is known as the great TL coach. But he was a very exceptional caster. He still makes LCS guest appearances, and he did a very, very solid job. So it was fun. There's also I have a clip of a Spawn Rusty PastryTime Tricast.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Which was the grand final. Was the Tricast of the summer split. We'll fix your cam in a sec. It's fine.
People don't need to see me.
Comfortable position here. It feels like they've got.
I will say the other thing about Spawn is that he gives really good advice.
Other member.
I've asked him for casting advice, especially this past year when I started getting back into casting, and
look at him.
He is really concise and clear and really critical, which is very good for someone like me.
Very early skirmish in the bottom lane.
I don't know. Anytime I've ever asked him for advice, he's always given me insanely good advice.
Not going to have the same impact that Akon will have once he lands into that fight.
Yeah,
and I think knowing
also
that, Xiaohu probably not going to 5v5 contest with this dragon. They get a pick though.
That's
exactly where they want to be. LGD though have started up the dragon.
Yeah, they're looking for the layering of CC. LGD need to make sure that people aren't
the join be swift.
Akon's in the mid lane. PYL
needs some damage, but he'll be okay and they'll chase them out. Just threatening there with the ulti and the teleport. And second dragon does go to LGD. They're 2,000 gold up now.
Threatening even more so by just having Acorn sitting middle is dangerous. Doesn't even need to teleport. Shen's busy in that top lane. Of course, you mentioned having the tower down impacts the way that he can work
one of my favorite things
because he does need to be a lot more
I was going to say, one of my favorite things coming out of the Join B Swift roster was I remember you telling me about how
Yeah, they get lost.
You're like,
bottom turret now as
yeah,
well.
so
3-1
in
up
internal
tags for LGD
comms, a lot
as
of
they
what
sell the outer
happens
ring. And
is
that gold lead's creeping up. 3,000 gold, 2 dragons,
Swift will just go in, but the rest of the team won't follow him. But Doinby would always yell through comms, "I believe in you."
Yeah.
And I still say that sometimes, and I'm like, no one is gonna get
Yep.
Ryan
Like, I don't
saying
wanna
this
die.
like this.
Really
Like I've said that in the LPL
Totally.
broadcast, and Raz is giving me the weirdest looks. And I'm like, you remember Doinby Swift? And he's just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's like, there's a lot of like little like internal things that I know that happened in like 2014, 2015 with LPL and 2016 as well. Because those were the year 2015, 2016 were like the years I lived in China. Or no, 2016, 2017 were. And then like had closer LPL contacts. So there's just like a lot of random shit.
TNT and TCT too.
Yeah, TNT, also known as Pekko, also known as all of the names that he's had. With the like UZI drama as well that got overshadowed by the Doing B drama in later years. So, yeah, like I don't know. LPL has always just had bangers for drama, I guess. Yeah, but that was just like a short clip of the finals, because the finals was also like strangely close, and then QG didn't make Worlds, despite the fact that they got because they qualified that summer, right? So, but they were in the finals.
Yeah, they were a brand new team at the time.
Just like one game off of making Worlds, but lost the qualifier. So.
The other thing that I thought was really funny about this was also the opening where they did the weird thing with the masks, and every single player could not hold a straight face. They were all giggling when they like would take off their masks, and it was supposed to, you could tell it was supposed to look like, you know, super serious and like kind of creepy. And then you have like fucking Imp giggling as he's taking off this this like white theater mask. It was a very, very fun opening ceremony. I'll say that for this final.
And Frosk joined this product in summer as well. She wasn't in spring, but she did join for summer. And so she was also part of this team. I will skip the Oceanic clip of her because she'll appear again. But like, I just wanted to mention that she did join. And then we'll go to another one who I feel like is like, if we talk about casters that like should be remembered and were really, really good and were exceptional in the product and just kind of like grew really well with time, this one I think kind of has to be remembered. Let's see. But this was 2016, so this team stayed in OS for 2015, 2016, and I believe 2017. Or this team stayed in Oceania to cast the LPL. But this is...
I think that Echo is going to be a problem in the late game. I think that if it gets to a 6-item Echo, that's going to be difficult for Renekton to deal with. But for now, you have to look at where the game currently stands. Renekton already has 2 very major items completed, 2 more components.
At the time, we were really going, we were big fans of the 3-piece suit,
of Echo at the moment.
Oh yeah, that was the
in lane
meta.
against him if he
We
wants
needed
to.
the bolo
With the
ties.
distortion boots pick up as well,
That's what we
it means
needed.
that Mario can continue to do what he wants to right now, which is teleport down, pick up a kill, and reset that once again. He's been doing that time and time again, and if he keeps doing that, Echo just can't match up to that, and it's going to take a lot more time for him to be able to 1v1 him in lane and make sure he can push against him as well.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the only real...
Yeah, this was Fish or Maxi. He joined the product for 2016. And he was, let me bring you back up. I think for me, he's one of, again, like another really good play-by-play caster who was part of it. And he just like continued to get better and better over time. And I think by the time the like China era of LPL English was over, he was potentially like the best play-by-play. I think that was like after Atlus had left. I think. And Pastry had left. But I think but he was very good. I think, and that was like one of his first desk performances there, and like he had a very good cadence. Like his pacing was always really solid. I think that's like what I remember about him the most. And also a very funny guy. So yeah, big fan. He joined, and again, like I don't have a lot of clips from 2016, 2017, 2018 because with the exception of like adding new casters, the team stayed relatively the same, and the biggest things was just like the location of the broadcast changed and who was running it changed, I think, is the bigger thing to talk about, which we'll get to. But until then, we'll show another 2017 clip.
Yeah. I really liked Fish. I thought he was really good.
Yep, Fish was really good. And that clip doesn't necessarily show off why. I just wanted an image of him, more or less. Look, it was like 3 a.m. by this point, okay?
That's fine. I'm not judging.
I was like, I'm going to get clips of every single caster who is ever on the product. And I was like, it's fucking, this is a disaster, Kelsey. You've ruined everything. But this one, this is a twofer. So we have 2 new casters on this one. This is 2017 clip.
I'm on a delay because I'm going off of the stream.
That's one of the reasons why I thought he was a great player. So it's also plays like that. This could be a very good pick though for IG as 4 people are collapsing, but it's a race against time because Scout is buying so much time. Here comes Mako, here comes Scout, here comes the cavalry, and everyone from EDG are here for a full-blown fight as Duke jumps into the backline, but no one else from IG are able to get involved. Oh, Syndra's caught out and doesn't get to use the ultimate. He is locked down, and that's the arrow we're looking for from Zed before, as everyone trying to escape now from IG, but it is just damage control at this point. His mouse is on the hunt for some blood, and it seems like Megan's going to be the sacrificial Braum. Tries to jump away with Stand Behind Me, but Duke might jump in here and survive. Perhaps Glilov jumps in. Oh, Ning almost bites it. That's going to be one more kill over to EDG and probably the Baron now.
Yeah, they pushed him far enough back that they could look towards this, but there's even though there's a ward there, so IG does know what's happening, this should get burnt out really quickly.
I just remember all the caster ticks. Like the Frost clip earlier, I included because it had her methodically. Like she said methodically a lot, and then the Raz look towards. Like there's just like I don't know.
Yeah,
I just remember we all have them. I just remember everyone's crutches, even like years and years and years later. So I don't know. To me, it's endearing. I know casters like hate them, but to me it's like, okay, this is a Raz cast because he says look towards, right? And this is a Frost cast because she says methodically. Obviously it gets annoying if you hear it a lot, but for me it's like I just remember these moments so fondly now. It's good nostalgia. So
yeah, I don't think it's like as bad as people think it is, but I also know, especially now that after my initial foray into casting, it's if it's something you're working on and then you hear yourself say it again, it's just like, oh fuck, please just shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, I also think
like I feel that a lot when I'm doing my own VOD reviews.
I also think there's a huge emphasis on talking about crutch words and and fluency because producers don't understand other elements of casting. So those will get overemphasized in caster reviews, I think. That's my personal opinion.
This IG skeleton is the roster that eventually became a Worlds winning roster. This was the beginning of the IG core pre Jackie Love, BaoLen coming up.
No, this moment is good because it's 2 kind of like waiting room 80 carries. Because we're waiting for iBoy to be 17, and we're waiting for Jackie Love to be 17.
To be 17,
And they were like 2 of the 3 upcoming ADC stars at the time. The other one being Abel. And then it's just like, to me, I dubbed this roster like Rookie and his rookies, and they almost made, because the Shy also joined the team, and they almost made Worlds that year. They were 4th in 2017
with West and Megan.
Yeah, with West and Megan. And I actually, like, it was such a good story. And I remember that qualifier as well, because, like, Aimee, or no, it wasn't Aimee. Who the fuck? Anyway, I remember the qualifier. It was like a really fun experience. Yeah, so it's a good time. And then yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did BaoLan gain his prowess as a support when he changed from Megan to BaoLan, or was it just all Jackie love, or a combination of the two?
Everyone loves.
I'm just being an idiot.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, I don't know. But
I love talking about Jackie Love and BaoLan's codependent relationship when Jackie Love came up.
Yeah, the best.
And BaoLan's like, maybe I want to leave, and Jackie Love's like, no, you don't actually.
Forever. Yeah, that was 2017, and a very significant change occurred after 2017 in terms of. Oh, we didn't talk about the other caster. My bad. Pulse was the that I played. Pulse joined the product. He was the first English, like as in the nationality, not the language, caster, I believe, on the team. And now you throw a rock at them or something, and you hit one. But yeah, Pulse also had his like stint in other leagues. I think he was also extremely young at the time. I forget how young, like barely out of high school young. I remember thinking he's a baby.
Wow.
And now I'm like old, and he was definitely a baby. So yeah, we've got all that going for us.
I didn't realize he was that young when he started casting.
Yeah, he was very, very young. But yeah, and I'm impressed he achieved what he did, because I don't know, out of high school I was a nerd. I did a lot of schoolwork. That's fair. Anyway, the next one I have is funny for a lot of reasons, so we'll talk about those reasons. But also it's 2018, so we'll talk about the backdrop of 2018, I think, after the.
Yeah, and really WE were nowhere to be seen, instead setting up Vision over Baron. So what WE is saying basically is that we're going to try to goad you into a fight when you're not prepared. We have the initiation to really send our Alistar to the backline, FedEx him in, and start a fight when you're not necessarily prepared for it. So that was kind of the trade-off in tempo for WE.
Oh my God.
Let's see if it pays out and if they can go top into that area.
Yeah, so for now we can take a bit of a here, Clement, because the game has slowed down.
XX is here.
Just what I told you. Yeah, we definitely had to try and recap a whole lot that went on in this game. So once again, guys, apologies for that one. We also are experiencing a small audio desync, so stick with us. We are trying to resolve the issue as fast as possible. But right now we do have the push happening in the mid lane. Actually sending Xie to the bottom lane now. That will be his lane assignment. Has gone for the Unsealed Spellbook and will have the teleport to try and face down Marin here.
Man.
Yeah, and TOP,
I love
even though their
957.
composition is very, very defensive in nature, they can also punish very hard if WE screw up some of their engages right here. For WE, they do have to play it a very layered initiation. They can't go in all at the same time, or else Goon is going to punish them super hard. They also have the Braum and the Varus ultimate, the Chains of Corruptions as well. So even if WE do get the initiation off, they still have a level of execution that they do have to reach in order for it to work.
Yeah.
How many people are going to remember this caster, actually? Because like sneakily, I feel like a lot of people forget about him.
He's an
even though he was like such a part of the English language broadcast, both like as a caster, but also behind the scenes.
He was a huge part of the LPL English cast, and he was a huge part of the LMS Chinese cast. Or Mandarin cast, I guess. Mandarin Chinese cast. Language. It was Clement Chu. Clement Chu is famous for many reasons, actually. He coined the term, like, sixth man, referring to slow pushes. In 2012, when he was analyzing WE games, which caused him to be hired as a coach for Lemon Dogs. He basically ran the LMS Chinese language broadcast and like dragged it kicking and screaming over the line many times. And then he went over to the LPL English cast. He did a lot of translating for Riot as well at Worlds and international events. He was probably the only reliable translator for many years because not that like the other translators were bad, it's just that Riot had a tendency to hire translators who didn't know League of Legends terms. So it was very difficult to talk to players about the game in interviews because the terms are so different. If you didn't know the language yourself. So, yeah.
I would remember walking into an interview room, and if it was Clement, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because two reasons. One, he knew the game really well, so his interpretation was always really, really good, and you could ask game-specific questions. But then also, he himself knew the value of getting player personalities out and poking them. So if he felt like they were not giving a good enough answer, he would actually ask his own follow-ups to try to get more stuff out of them at times, which was like really, really, really helpful.
And there was like eras of color casters effectively running LPL English at the time. It was like Frosk and then Clement and then Raz, pretty much, were like the three kind of pillars that people talk about in terms of caster feedback, making sure the product functions. Like Frosk, for many, many years, made graphics without commission for the product on top of casting. So that was also a thing. She made the LPLen graphics as well. For 2014, I ran it. And then like Clement obviously did a lot of kind of communicating with teams. After he left the product, a lot of the English language casters would say that like they didn't get as much insight into what was going on just because they didn't have anyone. I guess Wendy stayed. Wendy has always been solid. But yeah. I mean, Clement's a good call out who's like kind of very necessary at the time. This was also 2018 was when they moved to China, and it was not until
Shanghai, right?
Yeah, and it was not until summer that they were fully there. Or actually, no, they were there before that because I was coaching. It would have been 2018 spring that they moved, because I was coaching H2K at the time, and I remember flying out to visit them and sleeping on Raz's couch. There's that.
To bring it back to like kind of the history of the broadcast and like the over like perception of the broadcast, do you want to touch upon the fact that again, like because South Korea had been so successful for so many years at this point, because LPL, they won MSI and they won MSI in 2015, right? And then people started paying more attention to them that year, especially since that was like the official, even after the drama we talked about with taking over LPLen. that was the official broadcast, and it was very, very accessible. And then those teams like did not perform well at Worlds. I think there was always this narrative of like, oh, it was basically like people kept moving the goalposts a lot of the time on why they wouldn't watch LPL.
Yep.
And it started off where it's like, well, we can't watch it, which is incredibly valid. You know, like as someone who wanted to watch a ton of like off-season tournaments as well, that was sometimes really difficult. Sometimes the Chinese stream wouldn't work. Sometimes the Chinese stream would get bought out by another stream mid-tournament. So like that was valid. And then it's like, oh, well, Riot is saying that the production value isn't good enough. We're bringing it in-house.
Yeah.
It's going to be better production value. Oh, but then the stream sucks, right? Like, and it's delayed and you're not in China, so you're not getting the audience and stuff like that. And so I want to underscore how big it was that they actually were able to move on location and broadcast from the LPL arena, because this was something that people had cited as a reason why they weren't going to watch LPL. I think some of those people just wouldn't have watched it anyway, but then also it did make a massive difference in terms of, we already talked about what Clement did with communicating, with being able to communicate with the Chinese side, bringing in a lot more like anecdotal shoulder content. And like, I still remember one of the more underrated things he did, which came later, not at this point in time, but he did a giant thread of translation on like, here are a bunch of Chinese language terms about how LPL players see the game. And like, I think it's really important to talk about this because previously and something I had to wrap my head around a lot when I first started watching LPL was like the culture of the LPL and how they approached the game itself was very different than what I'd watched in South Korea. And he did this giant Twitter thread of translation stuff, and it really, like, going to Shanghai really, really opened up so much more in terms of getting to know, again, players as people, having better interview translation access, just having more access overall, and also being able to feed off of like the crowd atmosphere. It really made like such a massive difference.
Yeah, I did because I first went to visit LPL in 2015, and I got an interview with EDG, and I got an interview with, and I got to visit the QG Gaming House while I was there, so that was very fun. And then when I went in like 2015, when I went to like 2016 and 2017, I lived there for like most of the year. And that helped me really, because I don't have like super good contacts from them anymore, so I'd have to basically start over. But I still remember kind of all of those, like how much I learned about the context. And also I was taking 20 hours of Mandarin Chinese classes a week, so that helped a lot too. Being able to kind of understand and integrate more, which helped a lot. And then like the 2018 broadcast, those are like the positive sides of it going to China. There's also other sides, namely like where the buck stops, which is like who has ownership and who has control of the product. So like the Oceanic Era team ran it, and also the producer, he worked with me on LCS in 2022. JP? Producer? You remember? It was like the week.
GP.
The week we ran it, and then he's continued to do work. He produced in Oceania with them as well, in Australia with them as well, and then you had like so it was basically controlled by that group. You brought it over to China and Shanghai, and it became like the Chinese broadcast oversight was when that happened. And a lot of, I think that's also when a lot of the frustrations started to happen. not necessarily because they were bad, like the Chinese people were bad at running things, but because they didn't really prioritize the product because it didn't give them anything. It was basically a time sink, a money sink, when they got more of their monetization, more of their viewership from the Chinese product. So they didn't necessarily care as much about the English product, so they had a tendency to cut costs a lot, to cut corners. There wasn't like a really good understanding of, because the way like Chinese casting works is, this is just an example, but it's very different, where it's like the funnier you are and like the more you talk, the more popular you are. So there isn't necessarily an idea of, and I spoke to the Chinese casters about this like a long time ago, so it might be different now in terms of like how the dynamic works, but there isn't necessarily as much camaraderie between like a color and a play-by-play or a defined role. In that sense, it's like two stand-up comedians competing for airtime. And in a way that like that's just a very different way of doing it, right? That's a very different way of looking at it. Also, like even last year, there was an option to get AI to mute. Like they added this to the Chinese stream. You could get AI to mute one of the casters for you. If you didn't like that, and then just
oh my gosh.
So yeah, just like stuff like that is very interesting.
They were definitely tracking who was muted the most.
Oh yeah, but that's just a difference between like what the English audience expects and what the Chinese audience expects, and having to translate those things when the person running the product is already not super bought in because of the incentive structure. You end up in a situation where a lot of the English on-air talents would have a lot of frustrations behind the scenes because like the product doesn't get what it needs in a way. And I think that continued to carry on because the Chinese product owners continued to control the product even when it got remote, which made it even harder, right? Because you can no longer like communicate or interface face-to-face with your bosses after that. But it did create, like to Emily's point, a lot of really great moments and a lot of really great elements. There are a couple more. There's like another cast. There's like a couple. So I think moving into 2019, there's a couple more cast.
PX era.
Oh yeah, this is a good time. There are a couple more caster pairs I want to introduce.
Are looking for those small ones. Here's the big one.
Started up nice and early. Lumel almost dies underneath the turret. However, JackieLove's going to stick to him on the auto. He flashes, he misses, but he finally corrects himself. The feathers fly underneath the turret. They lock down two more. JackieLove over ambitious.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, my boy Lu now.
This game come up huge. They find Yagao. The trouble bubble, the ignite. One of them lands. Ning comes in. Double kill for the Shy.
What a great counter from Invictus Gaming. You may be coming out with your TPs, but I have you locked in my eyes. Rookie coming through alongside with a teleport from the Shy to follow through.
And the entire team is damn there. It was so fast on the reaction, and JackieLove actually pulled so much time from the remainder of JD Gaming. It was a great feather storm into the air, wasting the time and waiting for those teleports to actually land, and Ning was on the spot far sooner than the Nocturne was. Just look at the start of the fight right here. Baolan's almost chased out. They don't get an instant kill. JackieLove actually finds the first one here, and JD Gaming are stuck in a really bad place, stunned underneath their own towers, and all the teleports finish.
And just take a look at JDG's perspective at this. At best, they're getting a 1-for-1. Because Braum has already died to start off before Lysandra even comes in. So this is already a pretty bad setup to begin with because Braum ended up falling through. But then you already see JackieLove, you know, setting up, buying for time as you had already mentioned. So IG had seen this coming, and of course were able to respond.
They just couldn't find.
Yeah. This JDG team.
I also just liked this sequence because it's a Tricast and it has Clement and Raz in it, but also Hysterics.
Yep.
And I think Hysterics for a very long time to me was like the most snubbed caster because he's just so good. And now he's on the LEC product, so good for him. And then I also wanted to give like more airtime because the clips I showed of Raz and Clement before weren't the most flattering. I thought they both did a really solid job with the fight breakdown there. So I wanted to show their progress as well. So yeah, that was a fun one. But the moment
it's just entertaining.
Also like the crowd moment too. Like you can hear the like in-person crowd moment for that particular series. You can hear the other casters even in the background, like muffled, like the Chinese casters. So it's like stuff like that is just very exciting. And that was also a big moment where it was like they turned the like JDG were 2-0 up there. So anyway, yeah. So we talked a lot about China stuff already. I want to show 2 more because there was also this period where you had like the broadcast could only cover some of the games. So you would have like some other broadcasts kind of creep up on the side that were like pseudo LPLens that had permission to broadcast when we weren't, or when the official show wasn't on. So you had certain casters who come up from that, like Penguin Casts, who is Sheen, who we'll get to in a sec. But also this is a duo here. It's a solid.
I went on a soul searching journey.
Preacher.
I was really feeling like I needed to find the secret to the LPL, and I went kayaking.
Wait, there we go.
Out across
oh my
the
God,
sea.
Discord. Why are you dumb?
Really,
there we go.
Really
okay.
one of the worst modes of transport, but it's very friendly for the environment. So I'm doing my part, and I discovered that I really wanted to know what Vici can do to pick up a win this season, because they really need a win as the organization, and we found out, as we mentioned earlier, that if Vici are able to pick up this series, they're going to place above last.
They're going to be number 15, but don't look at the numbers. The important thing is that it's above last place.
It's progress. That's what you want to see as an organization. You want to see progress, and that will be Vici Gaming's progress. And even if they don't get that, Preacher, I'm going to be honest, I think this has been progress for Vici. They came into it, and we were a little bit high on them, a little bit higher than we maybe should have been at the time, but a bunch of rookies coming into the league, you do not expect them to do as well as Vici Gaming have done, but they really have shown themselves so far. I want to see them show themselves a little bit further, drag this one out to at least 3 games, hopefully pick up the win.
The story of this team is, of course, growing.
Okay. Sorry. I just thought that was like a funny aside from them. I went on a kayaking journey, and I thought, what does Vici need to do to come up with a win?
Oh my gosh.
But
Rip Vici.
One of their names was said. Do you know who the other one is?
I don't. Or I don't recognize it. As soon as you tell me, I'll know, probably.
It's Niberia is the one who is talking the most, and then Preacher Cast was the other one.
That's who. Okay.
Yeah.
Where did he end up?
Preacher or Niberia?
Niberia.
Niberia did some tier 3 NA for a while. I know he and I feel so bad. I don't remember his name right now. I feel so bad. But he and another caster, I really liked them and thought that they were very solid. And they had like a style that they were pitching very frequently, which was kind of more chill, like sort of less game knowledge focused, and they had a very specific vibe. And I really enjoyed what they did. This was like 2021. And yeah, so like Niberia was always just like the not too, like he didn't care if you thought he was smart. He cared if you had a good time watching his casts. And so I always really enjoyed that. I think it's part of what didn't give him longevity, but I always kind of liked that, and I wish that he had been more successful with it. So yeah, thought I would do a shout out to Niberia Preacher. Preacher I'm less familiar with, but wanted to add his sound bites since he was part of the product. So. And after 2019, we had COVID. Yay! Sorry. Not yay,
no,
obviously.
You know what's really funny is like at the time because it first hit in China and they immediately kind of went into lockdowns. And I remember talking to a bunch of the casters about like how they were like, yeah, we're glad we actually like made it out so we could then later spend lockdown like with our families and stuff. And then everything swapped over to remote broadcasting again.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time I was with ESPN and I was trying, because when this hit, I was like, this is going to be big. I want to cover it. I want to go to China. And this was like the third time I pitched to them, please send me to China to cover LPL. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to go because of COVID, but I was like, can you like, can I use one of your translators at least? Like, do you have anyone who would be able to help me cover this story like before it broke? And I wasn't able to get any sort of like translation to try to talk to the Chinese side, which is sad because I feel like I could have written an interesting feature about what they were doing to essentially like in shuttering the broadcast and then later in bringing it back up and like what that involved and what their preparations were and like what the scenes were like at gaming houses and stuff. Like it wasn't a lack of context, it was a lack of having someone to actually translate it. And I'm still sad because I felt like selfishly I would have written a really good feature.
Did you ever contact me about it? I wouldn't have necessarily done like the best. I wouldn't have been able to translate like super well, but I would have been able to probably find you someone. But I don't remember if you ever talked to me about it.
I don't think I should have. Maybe I did. I don't remember.
It's a million years ago.
I know. It seems like so long ago.
It's crazy because 2014 feels like it was yesterday. And 2020 feels like it was like 10 million years ago. So, yeah, it's just...
I think it's because 2020 and 2021 seemed like they took 20 years to complete.
To happen, yeah. But yeah, so that's when we started getting like the full remote broadcast again. And it was still, again, like run by the Chinese side. And we had basically a brand new broadcast team. A lot of the people who were associated with the on-site team were either like kind of over it or like kind of found new positions or didn't want to do remote, like various things. But you had almost a brand new team going into like 2021, and I think this is when you had like a lot more European talent. Like way more European talent starting to be part of it. And you did have a couple of NA casters. Notably, we'll get to like the notable ones in a sec. But this one I'm shouting out because he wasn't on the product for very long, but this is also another double play-by-play. So
we love that.
We love that. I love those. Personally, I love like double play-by-plays. Color casters are boring. Like me. Okay. So this is 2021. We skipped so much time. And look, it's E-Star.
E-Star.
It's Xiaoxi.
With Xiaoxi.
And Hacker.
Too clean right there from Scout. And again, I was just complimenting the guy. Perfect maximum range scat of the week and is able to follow up on beautiful pressure from JJ. Now the bot side as JJ arrives.
And with the TP2, nowhere to go. They got so much damage on a Hacker, trying to see if they can get Rat out of here. It's all about keeping the ADC alive, but Hacker might die. Getting the kill they need to. Here's a rocket jump in. It's 3 kills for EDG.
That's 4 kills. They managed to absolutely eradicate them because they already got the kill mid. All he can do is TP mid and hope to find the scraps of a minion wave. That's all he's going to be able to look for. EDG absolutely dominating across the map. And we said when we looked at these compositions, it was all about winning the lanes and not letting E-Star get to the point where all of these ultimates can come into the game together, right?
All right. So yeah, color caster is Munchables. Color caster, quote.
Play-by-play?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess like he's doing the
doing the color role. And the play-by-play caster here is Magical. He only did 2021. Before he was kind of, they parted ways. We'll put it that way. But he did 2020, and then the other, and again, like another really solid guy. He's branched out into other games now. Always was available to do sub situations, so he'd end up in a lot of these double play-by-play scenarios. And then Munchables, who I think, kind of in my head, so you had color casters for a very long time who were the face of the product in like most of the years leading up to 2020. And then I think Munchables in my head is kind of like has been the face of the product more or less since. You could argue like Lyric, right? But I think Munchables has just been consistently on it. I think for me, like he's probably the caster I most associate the recent eras of LPL with. Is just Munchables being sort of the brand ambassador. But yeah, though there's a lot of him. You could easily find LPL Munchables cast these days. So yeah.
It's either Munch or prior to his LEC stint, Hysterics. I think both of them, mainly because Munch in particular really embraced the, like, I still remember that Suning thing he did where he like became the lion
and the Mojo copyright
and the Mojo and loving Morgan for some reason. I mean, Morgan was actually, he had the one good year, right? So sorry, bro, Morgan, I still love you. I'll still root for you on bro, but yeah, gameplay wise, interesting. I think
the front runner of the PP God fan club as well.
Yep. Yeah. So like he was always so like I think at a time where, again, you'd already talked about how the product itself already was having issues getting what they wanted in 2018. That did not improve. In fact, it deteriorated, I would say. Especially in the remote era post-COVID. And I think Munch did such a good job of being at the vanguard of like, I'm going to constantly talk about LPL. If I can't get access to stuff from the Chinese side, I'm going to create my own memes for global fans. I'm going to post this on Reddit. I'm going to constantly tweet about it. And you really need someone like that because at this time as well, there's also the rise of co-streaming. And I think one thing that, for example, Dom has done really well is something very similar, right? Where he's really embraced the LPL as a brand and become a brand ambassador for this region and has been like, is it what you expect from LCK? Is it this kind of pureless map play? No, but there's so many things that are worthwhile beyond like just team fighting and really delving into memes and trying to reach out to, you know, and again, this is where I know I keep repeating myself, but like to follow the LPL in the West is really difficult. And it's always been difficult for a variety of reasons that are very different across the board from 2012 to now, right? Or like 2011 to now. But the thing that has been a sticking point is that anyone who really becomes a face or an ambassador for LPL has so much passion for it. And I think Munch is a very obvious example.
So yeah, he's the play-by-play caster I think about for it, just because he wanted to do content. He wanted to basically be that. He went out of his way. I do remember like a very damning game show that Clement did with, I think it was him and Hysterics. I can't remember who the other one was. Maybe it was him and Dagda, just throwing shade at people randomly. where he was trying to get them to answer like historical LPL anecdotes, and they didn't know what the dog versus pig was. And I was like, how could you not know? But he is now educated. It's very important. So the next one I have, obviously, there's been a lot of very legendary moments with this particular caster. We've already mentioned his name. He's had a lot of legendary moments, but when I think of Lyric casting the LPL, this is the one I think of, and this is the one that sticks with me. So we'll just play the clip.
No matter the result, they showed heart. This was the start of a new era. We won a game.
Okay.
We saw interesting picks.
Captain trying out on wants the extra but won't get it. New once again has not had a good hit right here as Frigid's caught out in the back line and TT is scattered to the wind onto the Ornn. That poke absolutely insane, and Captain goes back as well, not down with the ship this time. Hughbo Gaming ending our huge night. The screen comes back to me. We've broken the system, Lyric. It's time to go to bed, and as New goes to sleep, it might be permanent in this series. The next being defended though, and for Hughbo Gaming you have to hit it down. They're getting pushed off for the time being, trying really hard. Tough onto one block, hang on. Angel needs to hit it though. And no, TT defending. End up defending the Shy. The Shy trying, but it stays. Triple kill for Pump. TT are not letting this one get away from them.
TT, what are you doing? This is where it was supposed to end!
Waiting for it. PJ, what are you doing?
For 9 hours just about approaching.
Oh, so good.
That was bad.
I love Jordan so much. I cannot say, like, just, like, obviously he is really good. He dedicated himself to the LPL so hard that I believe it was to his detriment, because he could have had casting opportunities elsewhere. He really cared about LPL. He also has an interesting history of previously having coached in LMS and also in CBLoL, which is actually where I met him first, was when he was a coach in Brazil.
Yep. We're back.
Did you? No.
All right,
he is just an amazing guy, and like I don't know. I can't say enough good things about Jordan. He is great. There's a reason why everyone loves him. And yeah, I think for all of the things we've talked about in terms of being a forward-facing ambassador, Jordan is not as forward-facing, right? Like he's not going to do a lot of the social media stuff, but he like bleeds so hard for LPL. It's not even funny. And he just like insanely dedicated.
And he's like one of the, so it's like for me, like LPL has always kind of been my league, right? Obviously I worked in NA, obviously all those things, but it's like I've always watched it. I've always like will stay up and ruin my sleep schedule for it. And there's like, Lyric is also one of those people. And Lyric, like, I think now he would take other offers, but in the past he's had like other offers to cast, but he has said like, I don't like League unless it's crazy and there's fights and like it's LPL or LMS, right? Like it's kind of that kind of thing. Now I think he'd take other offers just because he loves League in general. But in the past that was kind of the thing. And I have to add context to that moment because he'd been casting 3BO3s and they all went to game 3 and that was the last one. And you hear as the fight starts, like Hysterics says it's time to go to bed, and as Hysterics, like as the fight starts to change, you just hear him like deliriously cackling and crying. And then TT, what are you doing?
Please let me go to sleep.
The classic one that I didn't include was like he solo casted a game. That's the one most people remember. But for me, it's like that one. That moment is what sticks in my head, just because it's just the way I felt also at the time.
Let me free. Please.
TT, what are... And this was like when I was kind of the TT ambassador as well. And I was just like, no, just lose. I don't care.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time. I love that clip. It's the classic. But yeah. Also, my first coaching job was almost for him.
No, really?
Yeah.
For what team?
For the LMS team. It was 2017 that he was with. I can't remember what it was called, but he said he was down, but there was like some issues with his employer that I will not get into here. But yeah, my first coaching job was almost for him.
Nice.
So yeah, he's a fun guy. All right. Instead I went to HK. And everyone knows how that went. Yeah. All right. So this is 2 more new additions here to the team in 2021 technically, but these clips are from 2022 because the team stayed more or less consistent for the past several years with a couple of additions here and there, but
it's so hard to get in range when Cole's playing interrupt. Shanji can just jump on you. TP is now going to come in, this. Double TP.
Double TP now, yeah, as you said, they're trying to get in here and get this fight going. Cold is on the outside. Baron is going to go down. It's taken by Aki. As Cold is caught out, he has to flash over the wall. Look at Flandre, look at Viper, Dragon's Descent. Yeah, can't touch him. Aki's going for it. He doesn't find Flandre on the backline. Cream is getting handled here, but he's going right back in. And Shanji can't be touched. Shanji is a literal dragon, and you do not step to the dragon of OMG. Mako gets chased down, and it is inevitable. It's looking like Thanos.
And I'm guessing Siobhan is just the most broken champion in the game.
Scout trying his best.
And I'm guessing Siobhan is just the most broken champion in the game.
So people probably know Aux from the LCK cast now, but for people that don't know, he actually used to be, I believe, at least a semi-pro player in the UK, support player, and then was on the LPL broadcast. I think I love Dan as well. He's really come into his own in the past year, I think, on LCK. I think when he was on LPL, he was a lot looser. When he initially went to LCK, he seemed a little bit nervous and a little bit hesitant because he's someone who has like really, really strong opinions, and seemed to be a bit afraid to show that sometimes in his first like few stints on LCK. But I think in particular this year, I've enjoyed his casting so much. Like first of all, he's just improved an insane amount, but also he is willing to really, really speak his mind in a lot of those cases. Like, I just think he's a very intelligent person. A lot of people are going to look at his HLE prediction and just be like, oh my gosh, he 5-headed, because he very famously was the only person on either broadcast, the Korean or English broadcast, to predict HLE this summer. But I think the other thing I appreciate him more for, his willingness to go, like obviously that's an example of him going against the prevailing opinion. But I think the better one is how he talks about his all-pro votes. Because very famously on the Korean side, a lot of the time, they're just like, do you win? Are you on the best team? You're first team all-pro, right? And he had a big thing where he voted Pleta because he recognized how good Pleta was specifically. And Pleta is not anywhere near on one of the best teams in LCK, right? And so I think whenever I think of Dan, I really respect his opinion on the game. And I also am really happy to see that he is really sticking to his own analysis and backing that up and like willing to tank, I think, some in a lot of cases like unwarranted criticism. The Pleta one is the one that I'm thinking of the most, but yeah.
I mean, I think the other thing is, like, a lot of times, like, I personally will predict something that could happen, even if I don't think it will, because it bothers me that people are not acknowledging that it's, like, not one-sided, right? And, like, there's potential for XYZ to happen. And I think he does that a lot, too, because he wants to represent likelihoods, or he wants to represent, like, oh, this is actually there. So he won't always be correct, but a lot of times he will be like correct if you understand his reasoning. And I think there's a lot of people who people are missing, like people who really want to explain things. And I've talked about this a lot, but it's like people who really want to explain nuances of things do not really get popular in the space. But I think because of the energy that Aux has and like his attitude, and I always call it disappointed dad energy. Like he makes it work very well, where it's like he's disappointed in you, but he cares about you, right? So he can really pull off like those types of things because he's also just very approachable in that sense, and very smart. So like that always works. And obviously, like that was like, I guess Shyvana's just the most broken champion in the game. Because there was like so much misplay there, and you have like the play-by-play coming in going and like, oh my god, it's so good, and then the color caster always wants to say at the end, well, that fucking sucked, but can't.
Yeah.
So it was like a good moment. And then obviously it was a good like moment of excitement from Mazel and like a Shanju highlight, and Mazel is like the other caster there. Mazel is the other caster in that one, who he's the other kind of like NA tier 2 caster that got picked up at the same time as Magical, but Mazel has stayed on the product like very consistently, and he got to cast the final this year, which is very cool. For him, and he's like had his ups and downs, and he hasn't always been the most popular, but he also, like, I think Munchables' passion for LPL is not as big as it was, and now Mazel is like trying to carry that a bit. It's very hard right now. I feel like right now it's very hard to be that person, just because of how disappointing the support from Riot has been for the past couple years. But, you know, you still see a lot of, like, heart from the people who really love the league still. So, yeah. And I have one more classic current era caster duo before we get to some of the newer guys from the last 2 years.
A little bit more common when we used to see this matchup a lot, like Crash 4th wave, for the Jinx, reset, get your call, and you're already back here, so it makes it really uncomfortable for Gala to try and answer on that reset because you can push the wave so much faster as the Jinx. But Finn now pushed underneath his turret, and Khan wants to see if he can help him out.
Yeah, Khan is thinking about it, but Reed, you really didn't need to go for that demolish proc right there. No flash, no way to get out. He's going to be able to try and trade back a little bit of a health bar. At the end of it all, he ends up being first blooded, but that means we can go for an immediate engage. They get the double knock up into a double grab at him. That's going to be forcing out the heal there from Rise. He still has his flash available to him. They do get their concussive blows down onto Ming, but Ming is still trading this one back. Actually, you can see now they got the Ari icon going for a little bit of a roam. The early productivity we talked about earlier. They're going to get the concussive blows down. It's Chris has to flash away. He's not quite able to get taken out though, as Ming's been left to the waters, and that's going to be another kill for BLG. A much better start to this game.
Great roam from Icon, and this is something that we talk about a lot with Icon is, look, he will sacrifice himself in mid lane. You can see Bin has to TP in to catch this wave, just so he can try and help out his team, and willing to set himself behind in the CS department so this bot lane can get themselves back in order. And that means now you get to push in this wave as Rise, you get to get an easier reset, you're in a great position, and as well you're also getting resource across for Bin. So I mean, this here, great engage from Ming, like being able to catch both folks, but unfortunately Gala ends up having to move in through the jumper as he's getting caught between all the minions, so can't really follow up onto Rise. and they just don't realize that Icon has already gone from the mid lane, because this is what Icon does best, kind of taking these abnormal roam timers to catch people with their pants down.
And that's what BLG need to be doing if they want to try and come out with a win here today. They need to try and put RNG on the back foot. They need to try and keep them at a point where they're not controlling the pace of the game. And getting this first dragon as well can do a lot for the side of BLG. We saw it in game 1. RNG got all 4 dragons off spawn, had such an early Hex soul, and there was basically nothing they could do there on the side of BLG. I will say the dragon is taking a while for them to be able to take down, and maybe they look to try and go for a steal here. Actually, he's going to go over the wall. He's going to look for it. He's going to try and get it! Way with daylight robbery. This man and smite steals, my dude.
It's actually insane how often Way is able to manage this. Gets away completely with that one. And, ooh, actually, Icon going to take a bit of a chunk of damage here, but I mean, just really nice job. Does have to burn the flash, but getting an early dragon into your back pocket in a position you should never have that is going to go greatly now for RNG.
Yeah, let's look at the replay here.
I knew they...
I was waiting for it.
I knew they had existing synergy because they'd cast it together prior to LPL, but like, yeah.
Yeah, the BLG roster was kind of a train wreck. You had like the photo time, you had the UZI time. It was supposed to be good. It was not. But also, I had that clip play until Dagda said the classic RNG.
Yep.
I remember I tried to find this was like at the time it was just weird because I remember watching it live and it was like Irish translations for LPL viewers, and they had like just a bunch of random Irish words, and I was like, this makes no sense. This has nothing to do with the LPL, but it was just because Dagda and Oisin were casting together, and it's like, maybe people care about this, but at the same time, it has nothing to do with the LPL at all, and we're just bored and running out of ideas of things to do. but it is definitely something that reminds me. Do you have an orange on your? Is that a stuffed animal?
It's a capybara with orange. My friend gave this to me.
Nice.
It's a plush of 2 capybaras
with an orange.
There's a orange.
Orangey capybara. Very classic. But
leave it right here.
I mean, I think like the LPL community to an extent like embraced the orangey. I remember the RNG Twitter would tweet the oranges and stuff like that. And
Jordan made a song, like an actual song.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. I mean, like obviously Dagda has found a lot of success. Shim transitioned into producing, and now he's not producing anymore, unfortunately. I feel bad because, like, again, the current English casting crew kind of learned about it the day that everyone else did. Like the writing was maybe slightly on the wall, but my understanding is they learned about it like the morning everyone else learned about it. So that's very unfortunate. But yeah, good times. Emily shrugging. Cannot say anything.
Good time.
Emily employed by the corporation in question. Anyway, continuing on. I'll give you a segue this time. There are a couple more before we sort of wind down that I want to get to.
How much this changes things.
So this is also
Kanavi is level 6 as well, so if 369 can bait this, even without the ulti, Bin could be in trouble. But
369 versus Bin.
He's got outplay ability here.
Certainly has.
This was last year.
Bin in trouble, has flash available. Cyclone not going to be used though. Kanavi doesn't commit. I think maybe trying to hope to bait the flash out, but doesn't get it.
But that's what we know of Bin. Great temperament there. Doesn't pull the trigger too
early. Double play-by-play Tricast.
Yep, again.
No, it's a Tricast.
My question is, what is Shim going to do on the opposite side of the map? Because Kanavi did show in that top lane Rift Herald spawning in 5 seconds. So Shim, I don't think he's going to be able to make his way there. Although On has already planted so much vision in this bottom side, they can look for a 4-man dive in this bottom lane for that Herald exchange.
And you can see Missing was very aware of that.
That was not the clip that I had, but I had to find a clip because apparently I didn't save the timestamp. But yeah, Kitty is the one there that joined last year very briefly. Kitty was someone I recommended to the LCS products as well. She's done, because she's famously like Hilo on the Oceanic ladder. She did a lot of casting. She also speaks Mandarin Chinese, which is relevant to this product. And she now has a very popular co-stream. But did I change the scene? No, I did not. Okay, there we go. But yeah, also now has a very popular co-stream. So recent addition, I didn't really go out of my way to showcase a lot of like the this year people as much. I tried to get the two that joined briefly last year, which was Kitty and Jamada.
Now moves over, they're going to try. It's 3v4 here, and the roots come on through, but Missing just jumps over to his team. And look at the combo! Flash from Ganavi to set it all up as the knockup is there, slammed into the wall, and Photic is down. Shanji bonks one, looks for a second with another bonk on the head. Shanji is charging forwards and taking health bars. Ganavi buys a bit of space, and he buys himself a kill as well. But it's not quite enough to turn the fight with a triple for Shanji.
How in the world do they allow these Naxos to walk up? You've got Kennen, but Flandre got distracted by the Ivan, didn't walk towards his team to provide that shield that we saw with the ultimate around them, and JDG split up. Naxos loves when champions split up.
It's just a strong teleport angle from Shanji, and JDG are so invested in killing the things in front of them that they kind of forget to check for the pack. And Shanji's just given free access. Now the Herald's up. We might not even get a look at that fight. We'll have to see.
Because we'll have another one.
Because we're about to likely have another one. Shanji's still on the bottom side resetting. Your gal's going to have teleport in maybe 50 seconds time tops. 30, there you go. And I think JDG will wait for that teleport to be up before they look to engage on anything around the Herald.
And Shanji's just hit full build. Triforce, finished off.
And I think last year was when the identity of the broadcast almost fully transitioned into, this is a development product, right? Like, this is where we send our development casters. And I think it always had that identity, but it was less explicit. I know, for example, TroubleInc got the opportunity to cast because they wanted her to get more reps in outside, as like outside of her European casting, right? Jamada kind of similar, Kitty kind of similar. Those were a lot of those people who were added that I think they've kind of developed themselves as personalities in their own rights at this point. I think that was like, I was like watching that fight, and it's supposed to be like a Kitty Jamada clip, and it's like Munchables fucking popped off. Anyway, but like there's like the core talent from like the 2020 through like present era, like the Munchables, the lyrics, the like hysterics and Dagda. I still think of that, even though they're now LAC casters. Like Oceanic Mazel, like those guys like became like very good, right? And I think Munchables, like hysterics, I thought of as previously the most snub caster. I would say now it's like very comfortably like Munchables lyric. And so for me, it's like it felt like they didn't get the opportunity to do the tier 1 justice that they, I think, have deserved, and I hope that they do get opportunities going forward. So that's, with that in mind, I wanted to play this clip because I reached out to Jordan too, but Jordan obviously is sometimes allergic to responding on Discord.
There was one time where I messaged him, and it wasn't until I saw Dagda at Worlds, I think, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Jordan told me to tell you thanks," from like 3 months ago.
There you go.
Like, what?
But I did get this one, and obviously it also includes this one from Munchables about like a moment that he feels pretty satisfied about. So it also has Nightmare in it. So he's like kind of the guy I left out. So it's a twofer. It's a special. Yeah, it's a twofer.
Jax is coming up, Dragon coming up now. One important thing which hasn't really been achieved from BLG like they did before is that side lane pressure. Bin is being pushed in actually by Breed right now. Doesn't want to be left on the dark side of this bot lane. A little too long. BLG, they're going to start pushing through this mid lane. Again, potentially, they can maybe even look towards burning that Baron themselves. Smolder does have a good amount of DPS. Here comes the teleport.
It's a deep TP, but Crisp is caught in the front line in the meantime. Goes to the Unbreakable Well, but it's not enough. That's going to be 2. Tarzan burned down as well. BLG from nowhere find it again. Breathe is on the back line, but what can one man do against such reckless dominance? BLG are here to make their mark on the LPL, and there's nothing Breathe can do about it.
They've got half a wave in the mid lane here and another wave rolling in. Gentlemen, I think this is the series. BLG are marching into the base.
We had eras in the past in the LPL. We've had times of dominance from different teams. As another kill comes through, EDG and RNG are gone. The era of JDG is over. Now begins the age of Billy Gaming.
Now I'm sad.
Yep. I mean, it's a great call. And it's also in a way very emblematic. Like, obviously this wasn't the last LPL English cast, but it was the last grand final.
Yeah.
And I think Munchables like killed it, so yeah. It's a good one to end on.
Yeah.
I don't know how many clips I have in this document, but
man, now I'm sad.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously this is...
I mean, I already was sad, but now I'm really sad.
Like, this is obviously like, LPL English is something obviously very close to, important to me. Like, it was a huge part of my career and where it is now. Regardless of whether you think that's good or bad, I'm having fun, so fuck you, anyway. But
oh my god,
I know some people will be like, what, you're not doing anything. No, I'm enjoying stuff. I'm living my best life. But no, I like, obviously it's something that I am very sad that, and it's like, it's again one of those things where we're going back to the era of bootleg whatever. So I just kind of want to, and maybe this will progress. Maybe there'll be another LPLen, and maybe people will be able to monetize it beyond co-streaming, even though it will be way more effort than just co-streaming, and you'll have to pay people, and that will always make it hard. But I do think like all of these people in some way, like I've been able to meet a bunch of great people through the product, producers, casters, translators, and it's just, in so many ways, the LPL product is unique in the sense that many times over its history, it's only been able to continue living because people love it so much and are willing to drag it over the line. And I think that will continue in some form or another. But it's definitely one of those things where there've had to be people behind the scenes kicking and screaming to make it function even at the level it was at. And so I wanted to just like, I guess we took about almost 3 hours to do this. So I just wanted to give,
as expected,
a good shout out and a good kind of like just a couple of memorable moments. And acknowledgements of some of the people who did that. So I'm sure I left some people out. It's impossible to hit absolutely everyone. But I did my best to at least get some sound bites from everyone who's positively impacted the product in some way. So, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't for LPL. Like LPLen is like literally how we met. Because A, you were doing it as I was trying to watch LPL, but also B, we ended up working not together necessarily, but kind of in tandem on a giant GG Chronicle product that came out at the end of 2014. Because I covered Samsung White and I covered Kaboom for that. And those articles are lost to time. Pretty sure I wrote like at least 5K words on Samsung White. But yeah, I think the big thing for me is like, I wrote about this, I think, in an ESPN article once. I'm too lazy to find at this point. But like, I did write about how watching the LPL in and of itself from, at the very least, the US was always such a passion project, even when the broadcast became more accessible because of timing, because of having to go up against LCK, because that same kind of global community wasn't necessarily established in the same way that OGN's foresight allowed the community around OGN champions to kind of grow. But at the same time, the thing that was really unifying, it was like much more of a scrappy kind of vibe, right? Because, for example, after the LPL teams did not do well in 2015, I got a lot of community hate for that has kind of lived in my mind rent-free ever since. But it also, like, the community around LPL, like yourself included, was always like I was basically like, oh, if you're just gonna hate me because I follow LPL, I'm going to follow it more, right? That means I'm just going to like double and triple down. And the community that evolved from that is a bunch of people who are just insanely dedicated because of the difficulty, right? Or because it's not the popular thing to follow. And yeah, like that extends, like I said, to a lot of the fan translators now that exist. Like another one of my close friends is Linda, who's been translating shit for free since what, 2015, I would say?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I think they started like the fan, like her, and there was another one who was like a really big Fire Lolly fan. I can't remember her name. But
Gift?
No, not
was
Gift.
it Gift? Gift was a Def fan.
Yeah, Gift was a Def fan.
I know who you're talking about. I think her name begins with a J. I saw her once when EDG won Worlds in 2021. I saw her tweet and I was like, oh my god, you're alive. She's alive. And now I'm gonna feel so bad for forgetting her name.
Yeah, exactly.
She's really nice.
Oh, TJ was the caster who casted with Nigeria in the NA Tier 3. Sorry, I just remembered. Because I was nice. Other names that I've forgotten that I regret forgetting. Anyway, yeah, I think, but yeah, I remember her being like a big Fire Lolly fan.
Yep.
And like those two were basically fan translated everything at the time. And yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe that's just me because I have a limited capacity to do stuff, so maybe I just become a fan translator in my next era, because my Chinese is good enough and it'll help me get better. But yeah, I think if
maybe I'll finally start taking Mandarin classes. It's time.
But I think like the community has always been super huge. In terms of just like the passion and everything else, and obviously you is the recent like popular fan translator. I think there's just been there's a lot that's gone into this product. It's crazy to think that it's been a part of my life for like the last 10-11 years. But Yeah, I said, I am sure it will continue to exist in some form. It's just sad that I'm not gonna finish that sentence. Anyway,
because I already said it publicly on Hotline League, so whatever. The only thing I'll say is that, or not the only thing, because it's a convoluted thing. But basically,
there's a lot.
I think there's a lot. This is the nuance with which you have to look at what I'm about to say. Also, there's a lot of other larger, overarching systemic things in place that are not necessarily Riot's fault, but they're never going to go against this system. And it is the fact that, again, if the LPLen transitioning into being an official Riot broadcast from 2024 to 2015, or 2014 to 2015, was predicated on the fact that you want a better product, a more professional product, et cetera, and now coming out the other end of that, going into the exact opposite. I'll reiterate something I said on Hotline League. I do not think that value is inherently monetary. I know this is where people are going to roll their eyes and be like, Emily, you fucking commie bastard, get the fuck out of here. But I think
fucking commie bastard.
But I think, I do think, putting that aside, I do think that if you want to have the best product, it behooves you to have an English language broadcast of the LPL, which is the second best region in the world. And a region in its own right that has earned the presence it should have, right, in the global community. And the fact that you should value being able to tell these stories to as many people as possible, be able to tell the stories of the players the most correctly and accurately, be able to bring anecdotes to the table, be able to get to know some of these players, beyond what we've necessarily see from them on the Rift. Even when players don't necessarily make it easy for you. Like, for example, Bin makes it super easy for us, right, to talk about his personality. But someone like Elk, for example, or even someone like Shun, I've tried to really tell their stories on broadcast and talk to people like you, like Jiakai, like a few other fan translators, because I really want to talk about, is it 1010 as well, who's like the big Shun fan? I feel bad if I'm getting these people's names incorrectly. But it's basically I want to be able to tell these stories as best as I possibly can when maybe we don't necessarily see all sides of these players, right? For example, Elk consistently tanking all of the hard questions for his team at multiple events now is not something I would necessarily know outside of fan translators. And it's also following the LPL in the global scene, following it with an English broadcast has always been a passion project, but I feel like it also just should exist on its own merit because it adds so much value to things, right? In addition to all the other stuff we talked about, like being a caster training ground, having some of the best casters in the world having come through the LPL system, it just is worthwhile to be the best. I don't know, in my head I'm always like, why do you just not want to be the best at what you do? Exactly. Even if it costs a little more. But again, maybe that's me, and now everyone is just like, get out of here, Emily, you suck.
I mean, I have so much stuff that I need to be doing right now that it's taking so much willpower to resist just saying, let's run it back. see if I can find my LPL here. Fucking login. Time is a flat circle, you know, like this kind of shit. So, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one with that idea, but again, it's like, it is an important product. I think it's sad because it is a product that hasn't gotten a lot of respect in the English language community, and part of that has been the lack of willingness of Riot to invest in its ability to do it, and their resistance in general in people wanting to invest into it, making it more difficult for them. But I also think, like, I mean, even Dom and Cadrel, right? They had to branch out of their co-streaming and sometimes, like, the LCK co-streaming will take priority just because people are not as interested in, like, the lower team stories. You'll get way less viewership for those, things like that. So, I mean, the league is slightly downsizing, not, like, considerably downsizing. I think it's just RA leaving at this point. But we'll see. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a time at the moment. I'm looking forward to seeing the next evolution because this league won't die as much as people have been saying it will die. And it definitely won't die in the English language community, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, I think that's it for today. There's a couple of other there's a couple of other things we want to do, like talk about in more detail about some of the LCK and LTA rosters. Probably LPL rosters will start coming out soon. LEC rosters, a lot of them are finalized now too. So I think we'll do more kind of we'll do probably more like roster rumor conversations in the next episode, and maybe some LCS nostalgia. We said we would at one point. So yeah, it's been fun. This is probably our longest episode ever.
If you made it through this,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
RIP LPL EN.
Definitely a passion project episode, kind of like LPL English itself. So if you watched it, it's because you wanted to. So I appreciate it. Everyone, have a good whatever. I'm gonna take a nap because I'm off work today, and
nice.
Then I'll study this later. So, yep. Subscribe to the coffee account and follow YouTube, etc. Yay!